They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds, treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake, but the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect, but they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap, rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist, just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God, bodies ain't temples, just state-owned pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills, sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright, cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace, and those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
He said nobody who healthcare could be so complicated. The Obamacare debate was 6 months litigated. Years of med school debt got capitalized. Insurance claim forms so high they nearly capsized. But he wouldn't know the frustration of trying to get prior authorization. Everybody knew, the whole world knew, the doctors, the lawyers, the CBO crew. Oh, 30,000 pages of ready review. It wasn't a big secret, we knew. Obama deported, but the porter-in-chief is what La Raza retorted. Obama went after the violent folks and felons, Trump nabbed the dishwashers and people picking melons. But Obama's argument shows that he's not very bright. If Obama made some wrongs, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Fact-check crew, oh, acting all surprised that the sky is blue. It wasn't no big secret, we knew. He asked who knew a virus could be so contagious. Virologists weren't so outrageous. He was surprised at how many countries existed. No wonder when the virus spread, he the one who missed it. Spread them out, slit red in every deadly hue. World Health Memo said we already knew. Everybody knew, oh, the whole world knew. Oh, the lab coats, the leaders, and we were with the flu. Oh, the nations of the world, more than 192. It wasn't a big secret, We knew you unveiled oxygen like contraband air. Like 6 there. You sat down, claiming to discover chess. War called money was his big surprise. Iraq has oil, can you believe your eyes? He said, we are divided, a surprise to no one thinking. And he was most surprised a Republican was Lincoln. Everybody knew, the whole world knew. The Christians, the Muslims, atheists, and the Jews. Like being shot, they have animals at the zoo. It wasn't a big secret. We knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew.
Gather round, everyone, and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he'll keep on gaslighting up until he croaks. Confronted with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax.
self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We are awaiting a House Sparks raid, so trying to talk about some other, lighthearted stuff before the sparklers come on over. I'm just trying to keep tabs on when that might be, because he's still, I think, reviewing one thing from the Young Turfs, and, they're gross, but we all know that they're gross, so there you go. It is what it is, right? It is what it is, as Trump said. I'm sorry,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway, so CSL, I don't know if CSL can hear me, or Villaby, Aaron, 9-inch toenails over in the Twitch chat. Thank you all so much. And then also we have Sean, Jolien, Aaron, Catherine, Steve from across the pond.
It's no Scottish, it's crap.
Who else? Okay, good. I thought I had turned that volume down early the other day when I was streaming, but I guess it went automatically back up when I turned it back up. Anywho, so thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. So Catherine says, by the way, get the best 100% fresh grass-fed meat from U.S. Wellness Meats and Force of Nature companies. I also have another place where I could possibly get meat from or whatever, but we will see. I want to look into that more before I start talking about that again as well. So, yeah. What's going on with me? We had in my house on Friday night, we drove from, took like a half day. I drove from New Orleans over to Orange Beach, Alabama, to go watch the Goo Goo Dolls with the neon trees opening for them. And my wife happened to get a meet and greet with the Goo Goo Dolls, so we got our pictures taken with them. That's not the first time we've gotten our pictures taken with them. We've gotten to meet them before. She's been a lifelong fan of Goo Goo Dolls. Like, there was one time where my wife was up in Ruston at Louisiana Tech, and she went to go to Rite Aid or something, and there was Johnny Resnick in the Rite Aid just just buying shaving supplies or something, and she ended up getting a picture, and she put that picture of herself with Johnny Resnick on a t-shirt or whatever, and then he actually remembered us because, and so did some of the other staff, because one of the other tours where we brought the kids with us, we had made our youngest son a shirt based off of the album cover, because they didn't have that shirt available in kids sizes, and he was like, I don't know if I should sue y'all or if I should hire y'all. And we all laughed about it because he wasn't serious about suing or whatever. But he was very impressed with the fact that we were able to make our own t-shirt for our son when none was available. So drove all the way out there and and then we're sitting there waiting for the concert to start. To get a call from my kids. The power's out. Okay. So I try and submit the power outage information, and the Entergy, who is our electricity company, just would not accept it. Like, I've kept on putting in, like, texting them, like, what's the status update of the power? We don't see that you have a power outage hooked to your account. What address are you in? So it was giving me two different addresses. It was giving me my home address, and then the address I lived in, that I moved out of in January of 2006. So I haven't lived there in over 20 years. I've not lived in that house for over 20 years, but it still wants to ask me whether or not I'm with that address. And then the person on the line with Entergy today could not figure out how to get that removed. So fun. Anyway, we get home from at like 3 o'clock in the morning because we had to take the kids to bowling in the morning. The power was still out. So now I have to, on Saturday, after bowling with the kids had their league bowling or whatever, on Saturday afternoon, I had to go make orders at several different stores or whatever to replace all of the food that had gone bad in the fridge. So, yay, that's another $400 out of my pocket that I could have used to buy other things. It's very, very frustrating that that they can't just get this right. This isn't the first time this year that we've had food go bad because it took them ridiculously too long to get to us to fix the problem. On Mother's Day weekend, there was a situation where one branch fell on one line and our power went out on our street for 11 hours. We reported it, and it just kept on getting delayed, and it happened like in the middle of the night. And I woke up because I heard whatever happened to cause the power go out. And then all of a sudden, so I'm immediately groggily just go to the app, report the power outage, and go to sleep. I'm like, okay, hopefully it'll be done by the time we wake up. Nope. 11 hours later is when the power got restored. So again, had to replace a whole bunch of food. So I do have a generator that I got, but I still have to make some safety checks to make sure it's fully okay before I can actually start using it, and then actually show the kids how to use it if for some reason they need to use it when we're not home. So, yay! Hey, Vasantha, good to see you. I don't know if I've missed anybody else who has come in yet. It doesn't look like it. It was very fun. I just glanced over to Hal's stream, and I'm not listening to him, but I glanced over to him, and I was like, holy crap, they're looking at like an old school, like Young Turfs thing. Like, I guess back when they were still the good guys, or were they ever the good guys? I don't know, but we need new media on the left because the corporate media is sucking and the other people are not worth it, like the Young Turfs now have proven themselves to be absolutely ridiculous. Somebody in, I think, Rush the Troubadour over there had asked something about who's worse, Candace Owens or Anna Kasparian, and I was like, well, Candace Owens is worse, but that's like saying that dog shit doesn't taste as bad as cat shit. Like, it's both shit. So... I mean, how are you really comparing? What is the comparison really meaningful? Being better than horrible is still open for you to be horrible, right? So, Elizabeth the mod over there says, tan your taint, his TYT, which is hilarious. Anyway, so let's go ahead and just start talking about some of the stuff. We won't get into some of the more, some of the stuff that we are planning on going into. We'll wait for the raid to come in, but we can talk about this first thing at least, which is the fact that Sonia Massey's killer, Sean Grayson, has died in prison. Sean Grayson, the white U.S. police officer convicted of murdering a black woman, Sonia Massey, during an incident in her home in 2024, has died in prison at the age of 32. Grayson shot Massey, age 36, during an exchange that took place after she reported a suspected intruder at a residence in Illinois. The killing reignited the debate about police brutality. Was it really reignited, though? I mean, this is a BBC article, but is it really reignited? I mean, I don't think it had stopped since, Black Lives Matter started, because, we're paying more attention to how policing is shitty in this country, right? Grayson said he fired because he thought Massey was about to throw a pot of boiling water on him. He was last year found guilty of second-degree murder, so I guess his excuse wasn't believed by the jury. The former police officer was undergoing treatment for colon cancer. His lawyer, Daniel Fultz, confirmed to BBC that Grayson had died on Sunday, but did not disclose the cause. The BBC has asked Illinois Department of Corrections for comment. Lawyers for Massey's family said Grayson's death in custody from cancer does not bring Sonia back. They say, we wish his family prayers of peace, as do we all for people who grieved a loved one. Sonia's family knows the pain all too well and will grieve her loss the rest of their days, the lawyers said, according to CBS and BBC. Protests took place across the U.S. after her death, and then Joe Biden declared the late woman should be alive today. I'm not sad about this one, clearly, at all. You murder somebody, why couldn't the cancer have come early enough to have prevented him from murdering somebody in the first place? That's what I would say. Because holy crap, if that's what you need to have happen, then that's what you need to have happen, right? Steve goes, internet went out of my street for 20 minutes once. Folks were on the street looking up at the sky like they would find it hilarious. Catherine goes, Indiana has been out of power for nearly 14 days. Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's living up there, I think in Gary, Indiana. And every time I hear Gary, Indiana, I have to think about the Music Man. It's like, Gary, Indiana, not Louisiana, Paris, France, Newark, or Rome. Actually, I should have to sing it with a lisp, because he sung it with a lisp. 'Cause Gary, Indiana, my home sweet home. So the friend of mine actually got power back today. So good for her, but I mean, that's 14 days without food. She had to just basically throw out her whole fridge. And I know how that is, because I had to deal with that. And one of our fridges absolutely had to be thrown out when Katrina happened. I was able to get back and I guess clean enough out of it, and it was still usable after the fact, after Katrina. So I definitely know what it's like to have to deal with that, even though we had evacuated, but still having to deal with a house with food in it that has gone bad for that long is just, it's terrible. So I do feel sorry for these people. I'm not jealous of them at all or whatever. I'm not, and I do not wish that on even my worst enemy. So it is horrible. Let's see. Catherine goes, there's a monopoly on power in Indiana. NIPSCO. They really suck. NIPSCO. That sounds kind of dirty.
Oh my.
Anyway, would you say that they're definitely not the tits? So yeah, I mean, here in New Orleans too, we got every area is covered by an energy monopoly. Entergy New Orleans is the one that covers New Orleans, and the weird thing is that there's Entergy that covers Louisiana, and there's Entergy that covers New Orleans. And in Louisiana, we have members of a public service commission that regulate all of the energy providers, with the exception of New Orleans, which New Orleans regulates Entergy New Orleans themselves and doesn't use the public service commission. Doesn't make sense to me. Why shouldn't they all be covered by the same commission? I guess it's a little better because now the Public Service Commission only has one Democrat on it, and this New Orleans City Council has 7 Democrats on it, plus the mayor. So maybe it's better for New Orleans, maybe, but still, where I live in Algiers, Louisiana, which is a suburb, it's in New Orleans. It's in New Orleans proper, but it's on the west bank of the Mississippi River, which is actually south of the rest of New Orleans, or west. But anyway, to get to the West Bank, you have to travel southeast. It's very weird. So they just can't seem to get the power thing's right, and it's very frustrating, especially when you have to go back and buy $400 again worth of new food to replace the old food that clearly wasn't going to be good anymore. So yay. So Catherine goes, had to refresh that Jagoff Illinois cop was a loose cannon, never should have been a cop. Well, there's a lot of people who become cops who should have never been cops, simply because of the fact that a lot of these people go into policing because they're making up for they were either the bullies in high school who couldn't grow out of them being bullies, or they're the people that were bullied who wanted to bully later in life and figured that if they'll get theirs as adults, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not the best people go into policing. I mean, this is not to say that that I have a problem with every single individual cop, but I do say all cops are bastards because the exceptions to the rule proves the rule. And I have a video on when I made the video on all cops are bastards. On the phrase for ACAB, I actually said at the end of that video I don't use it simply because of the fact that there are some few ones that are there, but I've since changed my mind, and I now say, like I say with most everything else, the exception proves the rule. So even if there are some cops that are good, that's the general rule still is that all cops are bastards. Or it could be Schrodinger's bastard. Will a cop be a bastard to you? Only upon presenting themselves to you and interacting with you will they determine themselves to be a bastard or not, right? So Catherine goes, the AKA ICE. Exactly. ICE are the worst of the worst, folks. It's like the people who are probably bullied and bullied others and had many other problems and fucked their cousins and all the other crap that goes on with that. What's up, Ponder Monkey? I'm happy to have city power and water, not everywhere. That's not that way everywhere in Colorado. Our gas is Excel, though. If they were good, they would have been fired or fragged. Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely, it's understandable, but good to see you, Ponder Monkey. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you over there. Dean Baker, I was just watching a video how in old days houses were cooled without AC. People are looking again for the old school ways. I did have a teacher up in Baltimore, and the teacher up in Baltimore invited us all over to her and her husband's house just to kind of look at how they dealt with keeping a cool house without using AC and being energy efficient. And this was like back in the 80s, so well before solar panels were a big thing or whatever, and I mean some people might have had them, but it still wasn't great commercially available, and they're much better now. So I was always very impressed with the idea that the house could be cool despite not having AC. So it is possible. In Maryland at least, I don't know how possible it is down here. Although when I went to go to a friend's house last night to go drop something off, it was actually cooler outside of the house than inside the house. So sometimes you can cool a house, or a house can be cooler, but the house doesn't have central air either. It's just window units, and it's just so freaking hot down here. I don't know if I would trust any non-AC way to cool a house in New Orleans. So, but if it was possible, I would absolutely do it because, cheaper and doesn't just go out every once in a while like it did for us a few weeks back as well. Catherine, dry ice in a bucket and a fan. That kind of reminds me of the Carousel of Progress. No respect, no privacy at all, I tell you. Yes, it's the humidity that causes New Orleans to be absolutely shitty and horrible. So, I was expecting the raid to come here soon. So we're just going to start talking about the first thing. And we will go from there. Let's see. Let me scroll. All right, let's go ahead and, because I'm going to record this one too, just to have it recording. So I want to start off, before I start talking about the beef issues, we need to start talking about the current U.S. food recalls, because we're going to make a point about that. And there have been even more food recalls since, we last discussed food recalls here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. So the list updated. Everything Sprouts and Calco Alfalfa Sprouts. The recall date started August 22nd over the weekend. Products include Everything Sprouts alfalfa sprouts, Calco alfalfa sprouts, Everything Sprouts crunchy protein sprout mix, zesty garlic mix. There's potential contamination with salmonella, and there's potential combination with Shiga toxin producing E. coli or STEC. Lots 222, 223, 225, 226, and 230. And then there's, you can obviously go to the FDA website, which is still, I guess, good for that, to see what the lot numbers are being recalled as well. Products were distributed between May 27th and August 21st to wholesalers and grocery stores in Minnesota and Wisconsin. The ugly detail here is federal and state partners have received 55 illness reports associated with alfalfa sprouts. FDA says consumers should throw affected product away and sanitize everything that contacted them. So then you have Mom Chips, veggie chips, recall date of August 24th. Mom Chips, veggie chips, and broccoli, florets, and cauliflower. Undeclared wheat. So this isn't a problem with the fact that it's, dangerous to everybody, but it's absolutely dangerous to a few, including people like my wife who have celiac disease. And having undeclared wheat is a big problem if you have a gluten allergy, if you have a wheat allergy, etc. So this is, again, an allergen recall instead of a contamination recall. You have Outshine fruit bars. I've actually eaten those, not recently though. Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream, Outshine brand. This has possible contamination of glass. There's glass in the popsicles. It's a physical contamination recall. It's not an ingredient or pathogen, but still, if you eat glass, not good, right? Then there's more. Grand Central Bakery potato sourdough bread. August 19th, 2026 is updated. Potato market loaf, potato table loaf, and mini potato loaf. Possible metal fragments in the bread. So, you might want more iron in your diet, but that's making it a little more ridiculous, don't you think? Now, this was bread sold August 10th in the Seattle-Tacoma area. Problem was traced to a pallet nail discovered in a loaf. Prince Bakery breads, undeclared milk and undeclared sesame. So this is another allergen recall. Then you had issues like the big jalapeno recall cluster. It's not one isolated product. FDA and CDC investigating a multi-state salmonella outbreak associated with fresh jalapenos supplied by Coast Citrus distributors. Multiple companies subsequently recalled foods made with those peppers, including fresh jalapenos, pico de gallo, salsa, guacamole, jalapeno dip, stuffed mushrooms, diced jalapenos, prepared salads, sandwiches, burritos, and other prepared foods containing the implicated peppers. Taylor Fresh Foods recalled the products. Taylor Fresh is one we all know because of the other recalls that were going on. A long list of states that are available that can be found on the FDA website, with a long list of specific recalled products. And even in Louisiana, it's Nature's Best or whatever recall. So then you have USDA FSIS recalls. Gangotri Foods, August 17th. Products include ready-to-eat pickled goat and ready-to-eat pickled chicken. I don't think I've ever heard of pickled goat or pickled chicken before, but, I guess it's something that some people eat, right? So, yeah. There was 1,626 pounds of the food recalled because it didn't have the required federal inspection. Asian America Trading, August 17th, ready-to-eat fish products. I don't know what the hell that word is. Siluriforms, imported from China without meeting applicable U.S. import requirements. So there you go. City Foods, ready-to-eat pastrami and corned beef, possible listeria contamination. Approximately 3,200 pounds were recalled. Corte Argentino, USA, raw beef products imported from Argentina. Imported without the required FDA import inspection and reinspection. Approximately 29,628 pounds were recalled. This is a regulatory inspection, not evidence that the beef itself was contaminated, but still, it's another example of food, especially beef, being allowed into the country that should not have been allowed into the country. More on that in probably the next video if you're not watching this live. Maple leaf bacon, July 24th. Not ready to eat bacon, imported without required inspection. How much of these foods are getting through without the required inspection? Let's see. Midwest Poultry Services, potential salmonella enteriditis. Approximately 1.5 million dozen eggs were recalled. And it's, again, associated with salmonella concern. And there have been a FSIS public health alert involving meat and poultry products that contain recalled jalapenos, basically larger part of the jalapeno outbreak. There's also been dog food recalls from turkey pate wet dog food. Potential metal contamination. Again, more metal in food from Diner Classics Milo meatloaf pate. Also potential metal contamination. Oma's Pride Woof Complete canine chicken recipe. Salmonella in 639 different bags. And then, so basically just alfalfa sprouts, jalapeno products, raw dog food, yada, 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 making this. I don't recall seeing all of these recalls going on under any previous administration. Can you imagine what would have happened if Joe Biden had all these food recalls during his term?
Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it, whole numbers would flip. Had Biden done it, the screen fell play. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Tim goes, let them eat cake. Welcome to the let them eat cake phase. Exactly. Misty Wash, please start a small patio garden. And there's a whole bunch of other good comments as they take off to the great white north where the moose and caribou play and seldom is heard an American word where you sit and drink beer all day. Don't eat the yellow snow. Bob and Doug peed there. Very good, big hook. But yeah, anyway. So if you're watching this video after the show and not as part of the whole cast, there'll be another video about like why I'm bringing this up now, including with all of the stuff. But in a few seconds, we'll then be talking about the issue as to why I felt this was important, and go to part 2 in a second. So stay tuned. Anyway, so yeah, so recorded that so I could have an upload that small video. See, Ponder Monkey goes, you have to work really hard to contaminate sprouts. There is something really wrong. The ingredients are water and seeds in a sterile environment. 250 kilogram years ago, Stouffer sold me ready-to-bake French bread. It had fingers from the rubber glove inside and no flesh, thank goodness. Was like the thumb in the whatever. So let's see. So let's close that one up. Let's see. I think it's all because European Union regulations. Then we left the EU. Cheers, England. But shock, no companies want to spend money bringing AC here in bulk. Makes sense. So anyway. So the reason in the last video I discussed the whole recalls of food and the large amount of food that is, needing to be sent back. Now, granted, there was one circumstance, one time I got peaches from Costco. And those peaches from Costco were delicious. They were absolutely delicious, and I devoured them. And by the time I ate them all, then I get the notification from Costco saying peaches might have had listeria. And I was like, well, I don't know what listeria tastes like, but it must be delicious because holy crap. Anyway, so there is I guess, USDA FISS import rules that will, on August 21st, that are going to be discussing beef coming into this country and reducing the quota or eliminating the quotas or the tariffs that might be placed on excess beef that might come into this country. So on August 21st, Trump announced a 90-day temporary increase in beef imports intended to bring down U.S. ground beef prices. So up to 300,000 metric tons of additional ground beef product can enter the United States. Now, this is not full on like cows. This is already processed ground beef. So that's approximately 661 million pounds, or almost 2/3 of a billion pounds. The imports will receive relief from the normal out-of-quota tariff. Trump says foreign exporters have committed to selling the beef at 25% below current market price, which is an interesting point. We'll get to that in a little bit. Administration says the purpose is to give consumers short-term price relief while the U.S. cattle herd recovers. I don't believe that it is appropriate or correct to say that a 90-day temporary increase in beef imports is going to cause the U.S. cattle herd to recover. I'm not a cattle herder. I'm not involved in any way in the meat industry except for being a consumer of it. And I don't believe that a 90-day period of increased beef will take the strain off of the cattle herds and allow the cattle herds to grow. I think you need a little more time than just 90 days. So the U.S. cattle herd is at a 75-year low, and beef prices have reached record territory. Ground beef averaged $6.89 per pound in July. The administration is basically saying, we don't have the cattle right now, so let's import beef and increase the supply so lower prices, giving American ranchers time to rebuild the herd. But Donald Trump's an idiot, you know.
A good word, too. They're Democrats, dumb. You take the B out. Most people don't know that dumb has a B.
Yeah, we knew. We knew that dumb has a B in it. We know that the White House has a dummy in it, too. Well, more than one, at least. So the 25% price cut isn't necessarily a 25% price cut for the consumer. So one of the biggest holes in the announcement, Trump says that the imported beef will be sold 25% below current market prices. That does not mean that the American grocery stores will sell ground beef for 25% less. The foreign producer can sell to an importer and then to a U.S. processor, then to a wholesaler, then to a supermarket who then sells it to consumer. Every step will have its own costs. Every step will have its own margins. And we really don't know how the 25% discount will actually be passed through to consumers because retailers will ultimately determine what the price of that beef will be. And are they really going to say, well, here's this cheaper beef and here's this more expensive beef? Are they really going to do that? Because I have half a mind if they would do that and be like, here's the cheap beef, here's the expensive beef. I'm like, well, I might go buy that expensive beef because I trust that one more than I trust whatever is coming in from these foreign companies or countries with Donald Trump's approval. So again, there's a big difference between foreign beef will enter America at a 25% discount and American consumers will pay 25% less. This also could hurt American ranchers at exactly the wrong moment. So the American ranchers are currently dealing with an unusually small cattle herd. The market needs incentives to rebuild the herd. So what incentive are you giving the cattle producers to rebuild the herd if you're cutting them off at the legs and you're allowing foreign exporters to export to us or so that we can import more ground beef? That makes it less likely that the cattle ranchers are going to want to create more cattle, because if they're getting less money for it, then why are they going to bother producing? Why are they going to spend the money produce it if they're not going to make as much money selling it? So will the rancher say, should I keep another 100 cows and invest the money necessary to rebuild my herd? Or after the government says we're going to flood the ground beef market with hundreds of millions of pounds of cheaper imported beef? So again, cattle ranchers will then have their price reduced, so they may not want to supply as much. There might not be an incentive to supply as much. And the National Cattlemen's Beef Association called the policy harmful to long-term industry stability, and there are even Republican senators from cattle-producing states that are also objecting to this new idea. Cattle futures also dropped after Trump's announcement, indicating that the market immediately interpreted the policy as negative for cattle prices. And I'm wondering if there was some stock market manipulation there, because again, when Trump adjusts tariffs, and normally Donald Trump reduces a tariff on something, and then it causes prices or stock values or futures to go up because, things are getting better. But him reducing that tariff actually makes it go down, makes it worse, so it makes the investment not as good. So did they short the market? Did the people who had access to Truth Social's new information where you can scrape the site and get the announcements quickly? Did those people make bank because they were able to, sell off their cattle futures before the news hit the mainstream media? So how are the ranchers going to be convinced to raise more cattle when they're getting less money for each cow? So then this could be the possibility. America has too few cattle, beef prices rise, Trump imports cheap beef, imported beef puts downward pressure on cattle and beef prices, ranchers receive less money for cattle, some ranchers decide to not expand their herds, U.S. herd takes longer to recover, America remains dependent on imported beef, and this is opposite of what the administration claims that it wants to have happen. Of course, what the administration says they want versus what they actually want are oftentimes two different things. Economists are already skeptical, according to the AP, that the import volume will materially solve the underlying supply problem because 30,000 metric tons represents only about 3% of the annual U.S. beef consumption. Rebuilding cattle numbers isn't something you can do with a snap of your fingers. You can't be Thanos and be like, Infinity Stones, snap, here you go. You have to basically make sure that, it's going to be longer than that. Hello, Sparklers. Good to see you. Thank you for rating over on Twitch. I'm sure you're coming in. We're just talking about the beef thing for a bit. We have a little bit more to talk about the beef thing for a bit. Concern number 3 would be food safety. So the imported meat is technically still subject to USDA food safety and inspection service requirements. Good to see you, Jen, and good to see you, Sparklers, over on YouTube as well. So every meat shipment entering the United States needs to be presented to FSIS for inspection. And these checks include certification, establishment eligibility, labeling, product condition, microbiological contamination, chemical residues, product composition, species identification in selected testing, and other inspection assignments based on risk/history. But my question here is, are those controls, are those government bodies going to be adequately staffed, adequately funded, and actually adequately enforce and effectively enforcing the rules that are placed on all of this imported beef to make sure that what we're getting is A, actually beef, B, safe to eat for human consumption beef, and not like, beef that you might feed to dogs or whatever, and C, that it's going to, not cause more issues to spread like salmonella, listeria, any other foodborne pathogen that might exist that we're already dealing with now. So, and then there's been substantial reporting in 2026 about staffing reductions and weakened federal food safety infrastructure. We already went into how, like the Taylor Foods, that first big Taylor Foods recall that came out, the Taylor Foods individual had somebody either come in from the Trump administration or went vice versa, and they basically lobbied the administration to stop the reporting changes that they'd put into place to set it off somewhere in the future. Those changes were supposed to make it easier to isolate potential foodborne illness outbreaks, trace them to the specific lot numbers, and deal with it then. But because they set that off, now you have to do wider recalls of the food because you don't know which one is which, right? And then again, there is a regulatory category for economically adulterated meat. The FSAS foreign equivalence process makes foreign systems to address accurate labeling and economically adulterated meat products. FSIS can conduct lab analysis for species identification when inspecting these imported products. So these things could potentially be detected. My issue is, will they be detected? Because again, less or fewer people working for those departments. And ground beef is also harder for consumers to independently identify. If someone tells you a steak, you can look at it and be like, oh, that looks like a steak. Oh, that looks more like pork. That looks more like chicken. That looks weird. I don't know what the hell that is. But someone could tell you, oh, this is 1 pound of ground beef. How do you know? And again, you might not. They might not be anything other than beef in there. But again, do we trust the administration? I don't trust the administration one bit as it pertains to how they're handling the food, because we've already seen how this administration is handling the food issues, and we're seeing a whole crap ton of them. Then you also have country of origin labeling is surprisingly weak for ground beef. USDA says ground beef is no longer subject to mandatory country of origin labeling requirements. This was actually removed back in 2015. Imported beef that is sold intact to certain businesses has country of origin information conveyed, but once the imported meat is further processed in the United States, the resulting product does not necessarily have to carry the foreign country of origin information. So am I buying a package of ground beef? Is this ground beef raised in Texas, Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Mexico? The consumer can't necessarily go out there and say, well, I actually am willing to pay another 50 cents a pound for American-raised beef if I can know that it's American-raised beef. Then there's disease transmission. Beef imports aren't just about human food safety, they're about animal health security. And then, of course, Mexico has been dealing with the New World screwworm outbreak in Mexico. The United States has only recently begun reopening cattle imports from Mexico under additional controls after the disease caused a prolonged suspension. Those controls include things like animal identification and inspections. So, again, do we trust that if the increased beef is coming from Mexico, are we going to trust whether or not, those controls are still in place, or that if they're going to make those controls lax, because Donald Trump is more concerned about the midterms and what the price of all of the food that we're having to pay that's higher because of his idiotic, moronic fiscal policies. Like, he doesn't want to lose the election, so he's more concerned with winning an election for his, congressmen and senators than he is making sure, in my opinion at least, that he is making sure that, the American cattlemen are protected and that the American consumers are protected. We all know that optics is more important than actual action. In fact, his desire for better optics sometimes creates more deaths, needless deaths like during COVID. Let's see, could imported products or animals and diseases devastate American livestock? If you're actually bringing in these cattle or whatever whole, then maybe, but I don't know about that one. Then there's, of course, traceability. Again, we talked about how this government has been lobbied to stop the traceability efforts as why we're seeing the Taylor Foods issues. And so if we don't have that, then how is this going to be any more traceable? So the larger and more international the supply chain, the more important it is to know where did the meat come from. So you want to be able to trace the consumer package to the processor, to the shipment, to the foreign slaughterhouse, to the originating cattle population. If there is an outbreak, you need to be able to rapidly determine what products are affected, where were they distributed, which lots are recalled, what other products contain the contaminated meat. And then if we have a weak traceability system, which we currently have when it came to the fruit and vegetables or whatever, the vegetables coming out of Taylor Foods, is it just one contaminated shipment, or where did all this stuff go? And then again, going back to the cattle market, 25% discount could distort the cattle market. Suppose the imported beef is artificially cheap because the government temporarily eliminates the tariff that would normally apply. So you're not seeing the true market price. You're seeing foreign production cost plus transportation plus processing minus tariff. That means that because American producers are competing against a product whose effective price has been changed by government policy, short-term benefit might be that the consumers pay less, even though there's no guarantee, again, that the consumers are going to pay any less. But the American producers will receive less income because the price of meat has now been made artificially lower, which will then make them less likely to want to continue working in those fields, right? And then, of course, the meat packing concentration. U.S. cattle industry isn't just ranchers and consumers. There is a giant middle layer: rancher, feedlot, meat packer, processor, wholesaler, retail. And the U.S. meatpacking industry is highly concentrated. If imported beef gives processors another source of supply, that could strengthen the bargaining position of processors relative to American cattle producers. So the processors are going to say, hey, I can get this beef from over here, so why am I going to buy it from you for a higher rate? So then it's going to force the cattle producers to make less money, even incentivizing them even less to increase the strength of the American cattle herd. And then, of course, there's also rural economic damage. A ranch supports an entire economic ecosystem of what's going on. So you have veterinarians that help the sick cows. You have feed suppliers who might not be able to supply as much feed if the cattle producers reduce what they're going to do instead of increasing their herds. You have equipment that the people deal with. You have truckers, you have auction houses, fencing contractors, agricultural lenders, farm supply stores, local processors, rural restaurants, and businesses. If cattle production becomes less profitable, then the economic consequences are not just going to hit the cattle ranchers themselves, but they're going to hit all of the people that are involved and all of the businesses and industries that are involved with dealing with domestic cattle production. You're going to harm all of those industries. And then another concern is that, again, we're going to be more reliant on foreign beef if it plays out in that way. You have that decline. If American producers can't compete with imported beef because the policy repeatedly suppresses domestic cattle prices, you'll have an even smaller domestic herd, which is the problem that we're supposedly trying to fix, and a greater dependence on the foreign supply. Then what happens if a foreign government restricts exports? If an outbreak occurs, shipping costs explode. That would never happen under President Trump, right? A trade war begins. That would never happen under President Trump, right? Country retaliates against U.S. tariffs. That would never happen, right? Drought hits another major producing nation. Geopolitical instability disrupts the supply. So what happens then? And again, as we said before, the policies may not lower prices very much. The United States consumes a huge amount of beef. The proposed 300,000 metric tons is not a lot. It's 3% of the annual U.S. beef consumption, as we said earlier. So you have potentially significant harm to cattle prices with a relatively small addition to the total supply and a questionable payoff, short-term benefit for the American consumers potentially, even though a grocery store still might say, well, I'm still going to sell it. It's beef is beef, so I'm going to sell the beef at the same amount of money. Why would I care where I got it from? And I'm going to sell it. I'm going to use the cheaper beef because, hey, now I'm going to make more profit. So again, and the U.S. cattle herd has been hammered by drought, high feed costs, high operating costs. Hey, the high feed costs have also been happening because of Donald Trump's tariffs. So Donald Trump helped create the problem in the first place. There was a cattle rancher up in New York State, and the closest feed supply was in Canada. So he had to import the stuff. And then he saw this increased price of the feed because the feed was assigned a tariff. So the people said, hey, this is your feed, and this is what you have to pay for your feed, which now includes the increased Donald Trump tariffs. And the cattle producers were like, what the hell's going on? I thought Donald Trump said I wasn't supposed to pay this. So Donald Trump has already started creating the problem with his tariffs, and now he's doing actions that are not going to actually solve the problem. And it could exacerbate the problem and make it worse. Now, Senator Mike Rounds and Amy Klobuchar have proposed the Ranch Act. The proposal would create voluntary grassland restoration program, potentially making up to 20 million additional acres available for grazing. That would help to increase domestic cattle production capacity rather than substituting foreign beef for American beef. And this is much different, than the Trump's approach. He supports importing more beef now, suppressing prices, and hope the domestic herd rebuilds, which, again, I see no reason why this policy would lead to more cattle domestically. But the rancher-oriented approach that Rounds and Klobuchar are presenting would increase domestic production capacity, thus allowing the producers to rebuild the herd, and you would increase supply domestically, which would still bring down prices a bit, but in doing so, it would still be allowing them to reinforce the herd, the number of cattle in the herd. So the question isn't whether America needs cheaper beef. It does. The question is whether the Trump administration is treating the symptom, whether making the underlying problem worse. Just again, to hit everybody who might not have heard the beginning of this conversation, simply because of the fact that we started a little bit before the raid happened. Again, America has too few cattle. Instead of incentivizing ranchers to produce more cattle, Trump is importing up to 2/3 of a billion pounds of foreign ground beef. It's supposed to be 25% cheaper. The cheaper imported beef puts downward pressure on cattle prices. Lower cattle prices makes it less attractive to rebuild the herd, which prolongs America's cattle shortage. The government cannot dictate supermarket retail prices, so who knows how much of the 25% we'll see. And because there's no mandatory country of origin labeling, we don't know where the beef may have originated. And while food safety isn't necessarily non-existent, because the USDA and FSIS are supposed to inspect the meat, but the system also depends on foreign inspection systems. Do we trust them? And do we trust the domestic inspection systems with all of these other recalls that are going on? If federal inspection capacity is weakened, again, while the volume of imports rise, then that is a risk that should be worried about, clearly. And then, of course, there's everybody else bringing out, what if it's horse meat? What if it's this? What if it's that? And can you tell the difference between the two? They can do it in the lab. I can't do it at the grocery store. So again, I think with how much this administration lies about whole bunches of stuff, I think it's reasonable to be concerned over how this is going to affect the consumers, how this is going to affect our domestic cattle industry, and how this is going to affect the country overall. And my concern here is that Donald Trump is more concerned about winning an election or having and keeping the House and the Senate in the fall than he is worried about the safety of the American public and the financial safety of the American cattle producers. So let's see. Alyosha says, what about the mad cow disease in UK? But Trump blames everyone else on Obama and Biden. He almost made a word for it. Yeah. Can we get Americans used to eating wild horses? Wild horses couldn't drag me down. Anyway, this is Trump being a century. This Trump administration could quite easily turn into the government which secretly introduces Soylent Green into our national food system, along with their propaganda about how safe, healthy, and delicious it is to eat. I don't doubt that for 1 second. Not science fiction for this sinister cabal. I absolutely 100% agree with you, being a sentient. 100%. That is one of the first things that went through my mind, was that we're going to get into Soylent Green category. Donald Trump would happily Donald Trump would read Jonathan Swift and take it as a serious look as to how you could help the poor while feeding people babies. Like, he would look at a modest proposal and be like, that sounds like a great proposal. Let's take all the poor kids and grind them up and turn them into stew and beef and all the other stuff that we could use. And we'll just say it's beef and it'll be okay. Right? So. MJ Daniels says, good thing I do not eat ground beef or any beef now. I would not come close to this stuff this administration is going to import. Problem is that we won't know because, again, there's no labeling requirements of country of origin. So you will look at a package of ground beef and you won't be able to determine whether or not that package of ground beef is, you know, from the United States, from Mexico, from Argentina or whatever. Of course, when the media asks Donald Trump, he's like, well, I'm not telling you, or he'll start insulting them because he views this as a way to potentially save his term by keeping a Republican Congress, by making sure that the consumers can't complain. But I think he's going to hurt more than he helps, clearly. I mean, that's exactly the story of Donald Trump's political life, hurting more people than he helps. Good to see you, Treva. Everybody else who has come in, Karen Ames, Susie, Dean, Suzanne, Mad Mac, Nick, everybody else, Steven Sayers, Big Hook. I think I did read one of Big Hook's thing, but I don't think I said hello. Gina Maynard, everybody else who has swung in while I've been discussing those topics. Appreciate y'all for stopping by. Again, we got 135 current viewers and only 39 likes. Please make sure to smash that like button. Help the algorithm, because as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm. So, what's up, CRL32? Good to see you as well. If you eat a horse meat, you'll get the trots. Nice one, Suzanne. Anyway, Watch American Flyers if you want to see a good movie about bicycle racing. It's a bit dated. It's a wonderful film. Kevin Costner, that movie got me so jazzed to race and ride. Interesting. Okay. Welcome back, Catherine. Let's see. See, I was daily dreaming they were turning FEMA camps, detention centers into organ harvesting centers. I mean, I also don't put that past them as well. Seems I'm going back to recording a lot of some of the longer form videos. I'm still doing the short ones until I run out of credits, and then we're going to see what we have to do with that. But anyway, let's go ahead and start. We'll record another one as well. So back in the past, during this administration, we have spoken several times about how the Trump administration has been targeting cruise ship workers, and many times Filipino cruise ship workers, with claims that have not necessarily been proven. And the Supreme Court has a requirement on the administration about, there's a requirement of due process where everybody gets due process. It's not just for citizens, despite the fact that MAGA loves to say that it's just for citizens. It is what it is. But we now have Operation Tidal Wave going on. And this has caused me again to have to re-bring this back up because Operation Tidal Wave seems to be doing the things that I've said that they've been doing before. And I would argue that they have not proven to us that they are giving the people the due process that the Supreme Court says that they're required to have. So what is Operation Tidal Wave? Operation Tidal Wave is a multi-agency federal enforcement operation targeting cruise ship crew members allegedly associated with child sexual abuse material or child sexual exploitation material, CSAM or CSEM. CBP describes the operation as targeting crew members involved in the alleged possession, use, procurement, production, or distribution of such material. Operation includes U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Homeland Security, the Homeland Security Internet Crime Against Children Task Force, and other federal law enforcement partners. CBP says agents have been boarding cruise ships, identifying specific crew members, searching living quarters and electronic devices, and taking enforcement action against the people that they identify. And the CBP describes some of these cases as administrative immigration enforcement and removal other than criminal prosecution. My question is why? Why no criminal prosecution? That's the thing that makes me not think that this thing smells right. That's the thing that makes me think that there's something wrong here. There's something rotten in Denmark. Before Operation Tidal Wave, you had spring-summer 2025, which we're calling the first wave. Border Patrol began removing foreign cruise ship workers from multiple ships and ports. They were not initially publicly branded as part of Operation Tidal Wave. Advocacy groups and affected workers reported that the Border Patrol was boarding cruise ships, detaining foreign crew members, seizing and searching electronic devices, accusing workers of possessing or viewing CSAM, revoking their crew visas, and then deporting them. Again, no due process that I'm aware of. And to me, it is the responsibility of the federal government to show that they are providing the due process that the Supreme Court required of them. Several workers said that they were not shown the alleged evidence against them. Advocacy organizations reported that over 100 Filipino cruise ship workers have been detained or deported during the broader 2025 campaign. One contemporary estimate identified at least 50 workers from at least 6 ships and 4 cruise lines in individually reported cases. At the Carnival Sunshine in Norfolk, Virginia, 18 Filipino crew members were reported deported in July of 2025. They had valid C1/D seafarer visas, so this is not a case. So you always have these conservatives, whenever I bring this up, they always want to bring up, oh, they're just illegals or whatever. But no, these are people who are here with proper documentation. But they have an accusation against them of possessing child pornography, CSAM. Now, look, if they are absolutely guilty, they should be put on trial. And then you should you should find the evidence and you should present the evidence at trial. And if they're convicted, fine. Let them be deported to some other country. I don't give a crap about, people that participate in such nasty behavior. But they have to be proven to have conducted such nasty behavior. And there should be a requirement to prove that before they get deported. The workers denied the allegations. Reporting said they were not criminally charged and were not shown the evidence. The number of Carnival Sunshine workers reached 28. 11 Royal Caribbean crew members were detained, 10 were deported, 1 was arrested and criminally charged. So 1 was arrested, the rest of them were deported. Victory Cruise Lines, 13 crew members from Victory 1 and Victory 2 were removed by CBP. Vikings had 16 crew members on the Octantis and the Polaris. They were detained and deported into Detroit. And again, these also were cases. Now, is this a huge network of CSAM going on here? Do we really believe that there's this large of a network going on, but yet they're not utilizing the people and leveraging the people into reporting where they're getting the information from and going after the source? Because that's one of the things that stinks to high hell, is that why would you not try and go after the source? Like, cut deals with these people and say, okay, if they're really guilty of doing this, then show me where you're getting the material so we can find the people, the actual culprits of the people who are making these horrible videos and images and content or whatever. September 2025, in Baltimore, 4 crew members aboard the Carnival Pride were detained and deported. Advocacy groups said that the workers were denied due process and were subjected to coercive questioning. There's also reports that the people who have been doing these detaining and deporting were doing so to meet quotas. And to me, if they're doing it to meet quotas, that's saying that they feel pressure from up top to get people out of there. So they're manufacturing anything that they can manufacture to justify these actions. And of course, who's going to argue against, we're protecting children and we're going after people who use CSAM? Okay, prove it. Prove it. And I'll have no problem with the actions. If you prove that the people did what they said that they did, then by all means, punish them, kick them out. Great. But don't take action against them just because you're trying to fit a quota and manufacture a case out of them that doesn't exist. So Operation Tidal Wave Phase 1 to San Diego, April 2026. CBP and partner agencies boarded 8 cruise ships, identified 27 crew members being involved in the receipt, possession, transportation, or distribution of CSAM. 27 were predominantly Filipino. I don't know what it is with their deal with the Filipino folks. Again, CBP canceled their visas. They were returned to their home countries rather than being criminally prosecuted. CBP did not publicly identify the ships targeted, explain why those particular ships were targeted, or publicly provide the underlying evidence. CBP also did not say whether any passengers were identified as victims. Associated Press reported that immigration officials specifically said a criminal charge is not required to revoke someone's visa. That may not be true, but the Supreme Court has also required that you have to provide the people who are detained and to be deported with the capability of contacting an attorney and with filing a writ of habeas corpus challenging your detainment. If the government hasn't proved to us that that's happened, I have no reason to believe that it has. And I have every reason to believe that they're just doing this because they're being bigoted white supremacist assholes. 27 of the 28 people interviewed were determined by CBP to be involved, according to the government's account. That is 96% of those interviewed. How many cases do you have that high of a number of hits? That doesn't pass the smell test either. Operation Tidal Wave Phase 2 was in San Juan. They conducted in Puerto Rico. 14 crew members from 3 vessels were subject to administrative enforcement. CBP says 1 additional crew member was accepted for federal prosecution. The 14 administrative cases resulted in removal and repatriation. Again, 14 administrative enforcements, 1 federal criminal prosecution. Then Operation Tidal Wave Phase 3 was in Boston. August 14th and 16th, federal agents boarded the Hollands America Volendam, a Norwegian cruise line. The Breakaway. I've been on the Breakaway. CBP and HSI searched the crew members' living quarters and electronic devices. 1 Indonesian, 1 Nicaraguan, and again, 9 Filipinos. They were accused again involvement with CSAM, CSEM. CBP said they were processed for removal. CBP's announcement said the action involved allegations concerning the receipt and disbursement of said material. Public reporting has not identified criminal charges against any of those 11. So a total of 52 people were subjected to administrative enforcement removal in the 3 publicly announced phases. And who knows how many else happened, because that's the ones that are in public. So the government is saying that they found evidence of this. They searched the electronic devices, and they've deemed that 27 people in San Diego were involved in receiving, possessing, transporting, distributing, or viewing such material. But we have not been showed the fact, the actual evidence. Now, I don't want to see any videos, but I'd like to have, some sort of confirmation that those videos actually existed. We've not seen forensic reports. We've not seen search warrant affidavits where applicable. We have not seen the specific evidence against each individual. We have not seen what their conduct was per each individual, whether or not each individual had possessed it, to download it, received it, viewed it, distributed, or produced it. The evidence identifying the original source of the material, the evidence identifying the other people involved in the distribution, and criminal complaints or indictments against most of these workers. So the CBP says it's found evidence, but we have not seen it. So the reason that I'm most concerned about this is because if you really want to go against people who are committing horrible acts with children, you should need criminal investigations and criminal prosecutions. So a criminal investigation could examine the phones, computers, cloud accounts, messaging applications, email, browser history, metadata, IP addresses, payment records, communications, contacts, other devices, and other people connected to the alleged activity who are not these cruise ship workers. So if the CSAM was genuinely discovered, where did it come from? Who uploaded it? Who produced it? Who distributed it? Who else received it? Are there identifiable victims? Are there other people involved? If you're just taking them and kicking them out of the country and not doing anything else, then you're not getting the answers to help solve these questions as to whether or not how to protect the children that are potentially being exploited in these videos. Of course, this is also the same administration that refuses to release the entirety of the Epstein list. So do we expect them to actually take the child welfare and the maltreatment of children seriously? Absolutely not. We don't believe that one bit. So the deportation can terminate the investigation of that individual. If the person is simply removed from the country, the government gets the person out of the U.S. but loses the opportunity to interrogate and prosecute that person or obtain additional evidence through discovery and then use a person as a lead towards other participants. So if this is really evidence of child exploitation network, why is the government primarily removing alleged recipients and users rather than pursuing the people producing it and distributing it out there? And of course, just as a reminder, Trump versus JGG, April 2025, Supreme Court considered the Trump administration's attempted removals under the Alien Enemies Act. The court allowed the administration to continue pursuing those removals while imposing procedural requirements. Court said detainees must receive notice within a reasonable time in a manner that allows them to seek habeas relief and before removal occurs. So what does actually seek habeas relief mean? In AARP versus Trump, the court explained that the detainees need sufficient time and information to reasonably contact counsel, file a habeas petition, and pursue appropriate relief. Government cannot make judicial review meaningless simply by claiming that it's administrative review, or they cannot realistically get him into court. Again, calling it administrative does not relieve or eliminate the habeas corpus or constitutional judicial review requirements. So again, the government can use immigration law without bringing in criminal charges. A person does not necessarily have to be criminally prosecuted for immigration authorities to revoke a visa or determine that the person is inadmissible or removable. But again, if you're worried about the kids, if you're worried about protecting the kids, then why wouldn't you go through those steps to actually protect the kids instead of just booting them out of the country? And again, immigration enforcement does not mean that no constitutional protections apply. Conservatives, MAGA folks like to convince you that they don't get constitutional protections because they're not citizens, but they're wrong. The Constitution has clean, plain language about that. It is clear. There's no way you could confuse it if you have working brain cells. So again, 2025, more than 100 Filipino cruise workers were reported by advocacy organizations as having been detained or deported. 2026, Operation Tidal Wave gets rid of 52 more in San Diego, San Juan, and Boston. And we have no proof. There's no evidence that these individuals have had access to counsel, has their evidence being disclosed to them, why they're not doing criminal proceedings, meaningful access to judicial review, and rather deportation is preventing investigators from pursuing the larger distribution networks. So this is highly concerning that they're continuing to do this, and the people on the right are just not even paying attention, not even looking at it, and not even letting, not even challenging them to be like, look, if you're really worried about the kids, prosecute these people criminally. But no, the Trump administration and the Department of Justice are too worried about prosecuting, somebody who put 86-47-inch shells on a beach, which is not a threat. They're going after Trump's political enemies and then trying to repatriate, kick out of the country, people who do not match the preferred complexion, so to speak. But one more question I'll ask. If you're somebody who likes to go on cruises, and it's being reported by the media that more and more people are being yanked off of cruise ships and being alleged to have this CSAM material on their phones, on their electronic equipment, or whatever, and they're being not given due process, they're just being detained and deported and kicked out of the country and banned from coming back. It's going to be harder and harder for the cruise ship companies to hire people who are from other countries to come work on these ships. Why? Because why would they risk it? Why would they risk it if they could then be alleged to have done something that they may or may not have done without due process or anything? So it makes it less likely that an individual is going to agree to work on a cruise ship servicing America. So if you like cruises, you should absolutely have questions as to how this administration is conducting this enforcement work. Because as of right now, I am not convinced that they're doing this right, fair, properly, etc. That went longer than I expected it to, but oh well. All right, let's see. 115 viewers, 54 likes. Please make sure to smash that like. Exactly. Trosted Every Game says, F anyone with that horrible shit, lock them up, but fucking POTUS was Epstein's wingman for decades. They're scared it would lead back to their boss. Of course they are. Let's see. Hey, P-Dubs, good to see you. Thank you for swinging by. Good to see you and everybody else as well. Karen Ames says, we need more Keanu Reeves. He's such a good person, full of empathy and humanity. Absolutely. All right, before we go to the next topic of Natalie Harp, because this is just a thought that I had previously, and I need to find the top of this thing first before I kind of scroll up. The orb rumors. My friends were staff on Royal Caribbean when Hurricane Bob almost capsized the ship within a couple of degrees. Wow. Mad Mac, Dan, got to eat some chocolate or something. You're getting so thin we could hardly see you. Thank you. Appreciate. I know. I mean, I have gained some of the weight back because for a little bit I wasn't on the Zepbound, but I'm back on the Zepbound again. So hopefully it's going to start dropping again. And I'll get to a decent target weight. I don't know what my actual target weight is at the moment. I don't know at what point it's going to stop, but since I've already lost 163 pounds, then gained like 20 or 30 back or so. So, what's up, Luck Dragon? Good to see you. Hey, Chad. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Give those kiddos a big hug from Uncle Liberal Dan. Anyway, so let's talk about this real quick, shall we? Because I had this that I saw on Hal Sparks' morning show today. User says, it breaks my heart. Let's see, actually, let's just start recording this one as well. User on Hal Sparks' show says, it breaks my heart that the Jewish people endured a Holocaust, but, now if you watch Game of Thrones, you should know that anything before the word but is a lie, right? Now they don't even see that they are perpetuating a Holocaust on the Palestinian people. Yeah, I said it. And I was shook. I was very pissed off at this person because this person is doing what a lot of people are doing, conflating Judaism with the Israeli government. I'm a Jewish person who is actively condemning the Israeli government multiple times. And when you say that the Jewish people are perpetuating a Holocaust against the Palestinian people, you are blaming the entirety of Jews for the actions of a few of those people who are in power in Israel. And you're ignoring, like the Jewish Voice for Peace people, you're ignoring everybody else who is Jewish, who is actively standing up and speaking out against the Israeli government and what they're doing in Gaza. And there are people who balk at calling it a genocide or not. And to me, the people who balk at calling it a genocide and want to play semantic games with calling it a genocide are similar to the people who bitch and whine and moan and complain every time you say that Donald Trump is a rapist. Because, it wasn't rape, it was sexual abuse, as if that makes it better. Now, that is a topic that I'm going to go into on another show, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, because I have more thoughts about that idea and the overall problems with why labeling all these things different labels. Why shouldn't it just be the same label? Why yada, yada, yada. We will go into that on another show. But swinging back to this one, and P-Dub says, I totally get it. It's like blaming all Americans for Trump and co-horrendous policies. And that's actually what this person brought up. This person actually brought up, well, people are blaming all Americans for Trump. But the only difference there, I would say, P-Dubs, and I tried to say this to Angela here, but I think I was blocked afterwards, so what have you. But the only difference there is that the American people as a whole are not a group that has been, over the term of the world history, been treated like, others, been marginalized, oppressed, discriminated against, slaughtered by the millions. That we are not, the American people as a whole are not a class of people that have, discrimination against them. Whereas Jewish people are. So to sit there and try and push this idea that the entirety of Jewish people are responsible for the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu and his desire to ethnically cleanse Gaza and the West Bank, his support of the settlements, his support of all the other shit that they do. Now look, should Israel have been, allowed to respond to 10/7? Abso-fucking-lutely, but just not in the way that they did it. And I don't support the way that they did it. But when you sit here and you try and blame all Jewish people for what some are doing, again, that's like trying to blame all of the people, who are from some, foreign descent, Somali folks, the Somali folks in Minnesota, trying to blame all of the Somali folks for all of the daycare fraud that's going on over there, when there were a few that were arrested and convicted or whatever. The ringleader was a white woman, and also there are plenty of other Somali folks who are living in Minnesota who have nothing to do with this. Do not blame them for the actions of some of their folks who happen to share similar ancestry. That's basically, if you want to see whether or not somebody's being racist, sexist, bigoted, or whatever, any sort of bigotry at all, are they blaming a whole group of people for what some of them are doing? Then they're being a bigot. So, and I will not sit down. I will not shut up. And when people go, yeah, I said it, you know what? You did say it. And then you got defensive when confronted with it. Had she simply said, you know what, you're right, Liberal Dan, you're right in that I shouldn't have blamed all Jews, it's the Israeli government doing this, I wouldn't have had to do a little segment on my show about it. But guess what? When you fight back, when people tell you legitimately that you're pushing an anti-Semitic belief and you push back saying, well, whatever, guess what? I'm gonna talk about you. We're going to bring it up, and I'm going to be critical of it. Not just because I'm petty. I mean, I am petty, but it's also an opportunity to educate other people. Because I don't think I'm going to get through to that person, but I think I might get through to other people who might be saying similar things, and maybe it will cause them to think, hey, maybe I should reframe my arguments in such a way so as to not harm the overall collection of Jewish people on the planet, and instead just blame the people who are specifically responsible for the bad actions going on in Gaza, for the genocide, for the ethnic cleansing, whatever label you want to throw on it. Only blame the people who are responsible for it. As simple as that. And that's what we try and do here all the time on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from life, that's right. Blame the people responsible while not holding everybody else responsible for other people's sins. The Natalie Harp stuff is a nice distraction. I've seen, or Natalie Harpy is what you're saying. I've seen a deluge of posts talking about is really government infiltrating government back to 9/11 beyond whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Let's see. Karen Ames, he killed the American beef industry for the money he makes from Argentina. Probably. Orb Rumor, it says Israel has free health care that also covers their legal abortions and we fund them. So even not a war to the right, Israel are baby. I mean, yeah, it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre because the people who are MAGA have more in common with Hamas than they do and have in common with the Jews in Israel. I'm sure Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't applaud, the availability of abortions in the country, but still, again, the genocide going on is what's against the Gazans. So, anyway, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Natalie Harp. So, I am having very serious national security questions about Natalie Harp, and is there a threat here to our national security with how she has been able to get in there? Now, am I saying she's a mole? Am I saying she's a spy? Am I saying she's an unwitting dupe? I don't know if any of those things are true. But there are enough questions being raised about the Natalie Harp situation that we should be looking into it and questioning what the hell is going on here. So again, Natalie Harp is one of Trump's closest aides. She has extraordinary physical and informational access to the president. She reportedly has served as a conduit between Trump and foreign leaders. Again, should make your little antenna go, eh? She has participated in extremely sensitive presidential travel. She reportedly spent more than a year in the White House without completing the normal security clearance process. She also has demonstrated an extraordinary level of personal loyalty to President Trump. So is she just unusually devoted, more so than even most MAGA? Is she a security vulnerability? Is something else going on? Again, I don't have the evidence to say that she's a spy or knowingly working for a foreign government or even being used as an unwitting dupe for a federal government. I'm just saying there are things here that we should be worried about that I don't think, especially when it comes to President Trump and his love of the women's folks, so to speak. So what we know about her background, let's go into her background first. 2019, Trump discovers Natalie Harp. Harp becomes nationally known after appearing on Fox News discussing her experience with bone cancer. She credited Trump's right to try law with helping save her life. Of course, there are people who have come in afterwards and said, right to try has nothing to do with this. You were using an off-label use for a drug that was already approved, so it's not right to try. That doesn't fit here. So I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to get on his radar, but Trump did see the appearance and became interested in her story. I'm sure if she was an ugly woman or a man, that he probably would not have been interested in the story, but because she's an attractive woman, I'm sure he was like, ooh, I would love to talk to this person some more. She's very lovely. He subsequently brought her into his political orbit. So yeah, her relationship appears to have begun publicly and organically, but who knows? I mean, if she was an actual foreign asset that was, being planted around Trump, then maybe that's how you want to make it look. We don't have evidence that somebody placed her there, of course, but there's not an obvious starting point in 2019 of where she might have been a foreign agent or something. But then again, most foreign agents tend to be covert for a reason, right? So then in 2020, she becomes part of Trump's political operation. She served on Trump's 2020 campaign advisory board. She spoke at the RNC. She then subsequently worked for One America News Network. So OANN worked as a television personality. She promoted Trump's claims that the 2020 election had been stolen. She then left OAN in 2022 and joined Trump's orbit full time. January 6, 2021, CNN reportedly found more than 150 deleted posts from Harp's account on January 6. We'll go into those a little bit later, at least some of the information from them. The post demonstrated strong support for Trump and the effort to challenge the 2020 election. They included messages urging people to fight for Trump and stop the steal. So her extreme loyalty did not begin after she got access to him. Predates her White House position, predates her current level of influence. It appears to be general political devotion, whether it is actually genuine political devotion or not, time will tell. So then 2022 to 2024 is the so-called gatekeeper period. So then Harp joins the Trump operation after leaving OAN. She becomes almost constantly physically present around Trump. She begins accompanying him while he plays golf. She brings him printed materials, articles, and social media posts. This earns her the nickname the human printer because Donald Trump likes reading things on paper. So she has a portable printer with her apparently and will print out stuff so that he can see it and read it on paper. So it's not just that she's a secretary. It's basically a person who determines what information reaches Trump. Reports have described her as a gatekeeper, a conduit, an information filter, person who can get things directly to Trump, and somebody who can influence what Trump sees online. So reportedly, Harp takes Trump's dictation. She helps draft Truth Social posts. She has posted things on Trump's behalf. She has access to Trump's communications, which is problematic. She sometimes works with Trump late at night. I'm sure Melania's either happy or not happy about that. I don't know. If you were Donald Trump's wife, would you be like, oh, thank goodness he's with this other woman and not with me. Thank goodness. And she can put information directly in front of him. So the president's information environment is enormously important if you're a counterintelligence person. If someone controls what the president sees and who the president can get access to or who can access the president and what the president communicates, that person occupies an unusually powerful position. You don't have to steal classified documents to influence national security. Of course, Donald Trump handled stealing classified documents when he was, being prosecuted for the law that he himself signed into law. So how much does she influence the president's decisions herself? Who knows? So there's a Zelensky incident. In November 2024, Harp reportedly posted a private message from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Donald Trump. The message was reportedly intended to be private, but yet she posted it publicly. How did she get access to it? Was it sent directly to her? Did Trump forward it to her? Did another aide forward it? Was it received through official White House systems? Was it received through a personal device? Was it supposed to remain confidential? Why did she have access to it? And was this an isolated incident? So, again, what we do know in this particular case is a private communication from a foreign head of state ended up in her hands. We don't know how she got it, and that's important. But again, we don't know how at this point. So we have to question it. So then in 2025, Trump's returns to office, January 20th. Harp becomes his executive assistant to the president. Her official White House position gives her considerably greater access than she had as a campaign aide. So now she has access to the president of these United States. So it's been reported again that Harp reportedly worked inside the White House for more than a year without completing the normal security clearance process. Four unnamed White House sources were cited from the White House were cited in reporting about the issue. Reports say that she declined to submit the required paperwork for an extended period. The issue reportedly drew concern from security personnel. Trump and White House counsel reportedly became involved. She eventually submitted the paperwork. So, again, she doesn't have no security clearance, but multiple sources reported that Harp spent more than a year working in the White House without completing the normal clearance processes. So what we don't know about the clearance is when Harp began the clearance process, what she submitted, what level of clearance she sought, whether she received an interim clearance, did she receive a final clearance during that period, whether she was denied clearance at any point, whether there was concerns in her background investigation, was she allowed into sensitive compartmental information facilities or SCIFs? Was she present for classified briefings? Did she hear classified conversations? Did she handle classified documents? Did she have access to classified electronic systems? What information was she permitted to receive despite not having completed the clearance? Did the White House make exceptions for her, and who authorized those exceptions? Then, of course, there's the foreign leader connection, which is opposed to the rainbow connection. So the recent reporting on the New York Times says foreign leaders have reportedly texted Natalie Harp directly when they could not reach Trump through normal channels. Then Harp could get the messages to Trump, so therefore she functioned as an informal communications conduit to the president for foreign leaders. Again, making your hair stand up, making you get some sort of spidey sense, making you believe that, hey, this is a person who is getting information from foreign leaders and giving that information to Donald Trump. If that doesn't deserve scrutiny, I don't know what the hell does deserve scrutiny. What we don't know about that, what countries contacted her, how many foreign leaders, how frequently, what subjects they discussed, were the messages sensitive, were they diplomatic messages, did they contain intelligence? Did Harp merely just pass the messages along to Trump? Did she respond independently? Did the National Security Council know about the communications? Did the State Department know? Were the communications preserved for, the records law and keeping the laws requiring keeping records of official documents used in the presidency? Did she use an official government device or a personal device? Have foreign governments deliberately cultivated her as an access point, making her think that she's very important? I'm going to text you, then you're going to tell Trump, therefore you're very important. Could they be fostering a relationship to turn her into some sort of unwitting foreign asset, or even a willing spy, or whatever? I don't know. Again, we don't have that information, but it's a reasonable question to ask. Then, of course, in Turkey, the U.S. officials detected a credible and imminent threat that we've discussed already. Trump was secretly moved off Air Force One. A catering vehicle was used as part of the operation to conceal his movement. He then boarded a smaller C-32A aircraft. Air Force One departed Turkey as a decoy. Harp was among the people who accompanied Trump. And again, we discussed this already on the show as well. But again, it's just weird. And Harp was trusted enough to be included with this small group that went on the different plane. So again, the question isn't why was Natalie Harp on the plane. The question is what security vetting and need-to-know determination allowed someone with reportedly unresolved clearance issues to participate in a highly sensitive presidential movement, and not like, a bowel movement like he has in the middle of the Oval Office, but an actual moving of the president from one location to another. Then, of course, there's the two letters that have been published now or reported now, describing Trump in extraordinarily personal terms. We've discussed some of them last show, including guardian and protector, statements of extreme devotion, statements that Trump was essentially the most important person in her life. And so again, her personal loyalty potentially makes this a case that it's not an evidence of espionage, but then again, somebody could appear to be personally, loyal, all creating an act just to gain the access. Or she could turn herself into an unwitting dupe by, sharing information back to the foreign leaders that maybe she shouldn't be sending back to them. Right? So again, you don't have to be a spy. You could be an unwitting access vector. Imagine a foreign intelligence service identifies a person with extraordinary access, someone who the president trusts, someone who controls information reaching him, someone who communicates with foreign leaders, and someone who isn't tightly integrated into the traditional bureaucratic channels. The intelligence service doesn't necessarily need to recruit that person. They could attempt to cultivate, influence, manipulate, and exploit her access to him by gaining access to her. So threat number one, national security threat, would be information leakage. If Harp hears sensitive information, foreign actor could potentially try and obtain it from her. Presidential manipulation, if she determines what Trump reads and hears, a foreign actor could potentially try and influence what she gives Trump. And also foreign access to Trump, if foreign leaders can bypass normal diplomatic channels by contacting her directly. They have another route to the president that could undermine the State Department processes, the National Security Council processes, intelligence safeguards, record keeping, and institutional oversight. And of course, there's also compartmentalization failure. Presidential information is supposed to be distributed according to clearance and need to know. Someone without the appropriate clearance is routinely present around the president with sensitive conversations. The problem isn't necessarily espionage, it's just that the classified information perimeter has become more porous than one might want it to be. Then, of course, there's social engineering. A person extremely loyal to Trump could theoretically be manipulated through flattery, ideological alignment, emotional appeals, access, status, money, or promises. We don't have evidence that this has happened, but it's a problem that could happen in such a situation. And her being so close in such a weird way makes it more likely for foreign assets to abuse that relationship and use it to their advantage. So there's still plenty of stuff to investigate as it pertains to this. Still plenty of things to go on. But there are security issues that really do need to be looked at. And it's very concerning that somebody with no accepted clearance for a while, and now who knows what level of clearance she has, it's very disturbing that she has that much unrestrained access to the president at so many times. So, and if you're a Trump supporter, I want to ask you, do you think this is normal, fair, right? Do you think that, this is potentially something that could harm the Trump presidency and harm this country in the process? Because you should be worried about that. But fortunately, not enough people are worried about it. Simple as that. Let's see. It's 9:20. It's 4:20 somewhere, right? So puff, puff, pass, right? Smoke 'em if you got 'em, as people say. To Natalie Harp is Donald's Ivanka's shame to Binky. BM, not a DM. Exactly. Let's see. If they mess with her too much, maybe she'll go into a rage and take our country out of its misery. Maybe. They aren't preserving presidential communications, and Harp is in the middle of it. Yes, exactly. Susie, correct. Let's see. Easy E Network says, I'm anti-Hamas and anti-Netanyahu. I like Jews and Muslims. Agreed, they are Easy E. 100%. Absolutely. So, there are two things that I did want to go over and review on today's show as well. One of which being something from Steven Crowder. Louder with Crowder. And a lot of times I will do an unraveling toxic masculinity type of post, type of video, and usually it's like from like the Whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit, that Marlon guy or whatever. But in this case, I just saw this particular video from Steven Crowder, and I was just like, hey, let's give this a little bit more of a conversation. Let's see, let's go into this a little bit and see what he has to say. It's not a very long video. It's only about 1 minute and 51 seconds. So let's go over and see what he has to say in this video and go over some of the silliness of it.
Why does having a boyfriend feel Republican? 18,000 likes.
What?
Now, let me...
Now, all these guys, Crowder had his issues with his spouse, and we've discussed those already, and the other two. So why does having a boyfriend feel like, being a Republican? I don't know. It's kind of a silly comment, and 18,000 isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things as it pertains to some of your big producers of people of content, right? So, I mean, I don't have 18,000 likes on anything, I don't believe. So, that being said, let's continue with the ridiculousness that is Steven Crowder and see what else he has to say.
Tell you something. This is women trying to save face. This is them reacting to young men. And I don't think that any of this is good.
This is women trying to save face from what? Save face from what, Steven?
Just to be clear. But this is reality. And feminists, and by the way, women at large, even if you're not a feminist, you have to police your own. We can't fix this. No uterus, no opinion, unless you're trans. This is because men...
That is a misrepresentation of the no uterus, no opinion tends to go with the people that are, supportive of abortion rights, who are telling this to people who don't have uteruses, who are trying to stop abortions from taking place, that, hey, maybe you should shut up a bit and listen to the problems that we actually go through as women. I'm not a woman, but that's what they would say. So what we go through as women, so you should listen to them on those issues. Because apparently people like Ken Paxton don't quite understand what happens inside a body when somebody's pregnant with a doomed pregnancy and there's amniotic fluid leaking into her body. So.
Have checked out of dating. So from 2019 to 2020.
So men have checked out of dating, supposedly. I mean, I definitely would like to see what these numbers are and where he's getting his figures about men checking out from dating. I mean... Oh, it's terrible. And it's obviously all the women's fault, according to Crowder, right?
The percent of single men looking for dates or relationships, it dropped from 61% to 50%.
Wow. So it was a less than 20% drop in people. So you already had 39% of single men who are not looking for dates. And, he's going to blame this on the women. This is for Valentine's Day. 5 facts about single Americans. So the number of single Americans looking, or men looking, has dropped from 61% to 50. Leaves out the fact that, a smaller drop for single women, but still, it's still fewer single women looking for dates. So it goes from 38 to 35 to 61 to 50. So you have a lot of single guys looking, a lot of single women, fewer single women looking, because, as some people say, men are too headache, right? So if you know that story, that's amusing. But let's go into some more of his reasonings.
Men aged 18 to 25, like 63% of them are single. That's double the rate of women. And that also tells
double than the rate of women. 63% of men are single. Again, I don't know where this information is. Let's see, it's from Pew and datepsychology.com. So maybe we could look that up as well. But this says a sizable minority of men are not approaching women at all. In the entire data set, 29% of men say they never approached a woman in person before. 27% said it had been more than 1 year. This was larger for men in age 18 to 25 group. 45% had never approached a woman in person. Again, in person versus online, because online has made people lazy. So again, not approaching a person in person is not the same thing as not approaching a person. Because if you try and get the interact online first, and then, you act like a terrible, horrible person, then you're not going to meet that person in person, because they're not going to want to meet you in person because you're being a terrible person. So 17% of non-approachable women in more than 1 year. Never and more than 1 year are discrete groups. This means that about half of all single men in the data set are effectively not approaching women for dates in person. But again, are they doing it online? Is this something that's being misrepresented by Louder with Crowder? I mean, shocked I know that you would hear that Louder with Crowder would misrepresent something, or represent something in not the best factual way, right? Something else is being left out of here. We'll get to that in a second.
That women are sharing men.
That's his. He believes that women are sharing men. That because fewer women are, there are women who are dating and there are men that are dating, and it's like double the amount of women are dating than men or whatever. That means that women are sharing men. No. It could either mean that the women are dating older men, just like what y'all say, because y'all will be in your 35, 40, and 50s and be like, oh, I want to date an 18-year-old because I'm gross and I go after only 18-year-olds, like Leo DiCaprio going like 18 to 25, and as soon as they hit 25, done, go find a new one, lather, rinse, repeat. I mean, I don't want to give younger people or tell them that they lack the agency to determine who they could want. But if you're a guy, or if you're a woman too, I mean, the whole whatever, Bonnie Blue thing or whatever, it's kind of gross too. If you're only going after 18, 19, 20-year-olds, you're gross. Whether or not you're a man, woman, non-binary, whatever. If you're constantly, if you're like that old and going after that people that young, only that young, you're definitely a gross person. But here's the other thing that Crowder is forgetting and missing. Not just that perhaps they're dating older, but also perhaps they're not dating men because they're dating women. I know, shocked, right? Lesbians exist. Let's continue.
Right? You often, well, how can you have twice as many single men as women?
Maybe because there are more people, because toxic masculinity says that, there's whole conversations going on about the internet now. I've seen lots of people discussing it as to whether or not you would date a bisexual man. So bisexual men are less likely to come out of the closet if they're single because they're afraid that somebody might, be toxic against them because they think they're somehow less of a man because they happen to be attracted to more than one gender and not the opposite one, that beyond the opposite one. But, lesbianism is more embraced by pop culture for various reasons. So therefore, women might feel a little less concerned with coming out and saying, okay, I'm just dating a woman now. Or being bisexual, women are easy. Again, that whole thing, men are too headache. An old woman sees a lesbian couple walking down the street. She approaches them and she's like, I get it, men are too headache. So anyway.
That means that women right now are sharing what they view as top tier men.
Again, no, it just means that they're either dating the people in that age group, or they're dating older, or they're lesbians. Or the sample data is skewed or wrong as well, right?
Wealthier men, taller men. They would rather share that guy than, pick someone who's frankly more in their league. 45% of young men have never asked a woman out. What?
In person. Leaving out two important words. Men aged 18 to 25 group, 45% never approached a woman in person. It doesn't mean that they're not trying to approach women. It just means they're not doing it in person because they're doing it on the internet. They're using Tinder, Bumble, all the other dating apps that are out there. They're Jewish, maybe J-Date, I don't know. But they're using all the apps or they're contacting people on, sliding into their DMs, either on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever. Like, you're by leaving out those two very important words, he's being very dishonest. But again, you shouldn't be surprised that Steven Crowder is being dishonest.
What? Yes. And the reason for that, it's a risk. They go, especially after Me Too,
Especially after Me Too. No, again, they're not meeting people in person. They're still introducing themselves online. But again, they're paranoid about Me Too.
You can retroactively remove consent.
Nobody can retroactively remove consent. But what's going on when when these people say that consent is retroactively removed, it means that they received a yes while the person was drunk. So it wasn't consent to begin with because the person wasn't in a mental state to be able to adequately consent to any sort of physical activity. So the next morning when they say, well, I wouldn't want to do that, but you took advantage of me because I was drunk, the person's like, no, you said yes, blah, blah, blah. She said yes, how was I supposed to, blah, 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 blah. You should know. We've talked about this before on the show as well. I was once one of these drinks in New Orleans called hand grenades. You shouldn't drink them because the owners are shitty. But you should only drink one or two. I had 6 one night. And after 6 one night, I knew that the person who I was hanging out with, who had like 5.5, was not in a place where she could consent to any sort of thing. So guess what happened? I made sure she got back to her own dorm room, that her friends got her back to her own dorm room. Was I interested in her? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I knew that many drinks in that she was in no place to consent. In the 90s, I knew this. So there would have been no way that she could have consented to me. Technically, there would have been no way that I could have consented to her either, because I was way too drunk to consent to anything. But I still was in a mental place where I knew that she was too drunk to consent, and I made sure she got back home. After the fact, we spoke. She didn't remember anything after 4 hand grenades. She basically blacked out. Anything that would have happened would have been during a blackout. Again, you can't consent in the middle of a blackout. So you have a responsibility, guys. Well, anybody, really. Everybody has a responsibility to obtain consent. And that consent has to be given freely. There has to be the person has to feel free to give a no. Because if you're not free to give a no, then a yes is meaningless. And the person has to be sober. Unless you do a Jimmy Buffett agreement where you agree beforehand to, get drunk and you know what. So, anyway, it's not retroactively rescinded. Y'all are making shit up.
When you look at young women who are often morbidly obese, very entitled young men are saying, you know what, it's not worth it.
I don't know what that has to do with anything. I mean, what? I mean, there are people who are classified as, quote, morbidly obese who are probably more attractive than maybe some of the trolls that you've been with. But, whatever.
No, it's not my grandma. It's not that generation, who, by the way, consider...
It's not my grandma. Now, this is really weird. This was really weird to me. It's not my grandma. I've never once thought, while thinking about who I would want to date, I've never once been like, how does she compare to my grandmother? I've never once thought that. And it's kind of weird that you do. That's not my what? Like, why are you thinking about your grandma in that way? I mean, we get a lot of conservatives are from like rural areas, and some of that happens in your Alabamas and your West Virginias and your Arkansas or whatever, but anyway.
They were painted as housewives and submissive. You guys ever think about this? Your grandmother would run circles around these young feminist women.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Backwards in high heels.
They were industrious, man. They were building stuff, making stuff, sweaters, patchwork.
Building stuff, building sweaters. Who builds sweaters?
Quilts, all that stuff. They were doing stuff all the time.
Why does having a boyfriend...
Oh, boy. They're doing all this stuff all the time. Anyway, so, yeah. Steven Crowder, again, showing, why he is a useless piece of crap bullshit artist who... I mean, look, maybe there's one thing that I got wrong. I don't know. I didn't look at the study. Maybe the study only looked at heterosexual relationships and left out people who were LGBTQA folks or whatever, who might be dating people of opposite genders or whatever, or different gender or same genders or whatever. But, like, to me, it's, since he's, leaving out the 2 words in person, seems to be reasonable that he probably left out other things too in, his mental processes, or for lack of a better term. I didn't expect that one to be a whole 14 minutes after the video was only 1. Hey, what's up, Doc? Good to see you. Who else have I missed who has come in? I said hello just as you were typing it. That's great. Let's see. Flower Dragon, good to see you. Mud, good to see you. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. 92 viewers, 72 likes. Please make sure, if you haven't done so, to smash that like button. Hit the buttons as well. The heart buttons, all the chat react buttons. Make sure to help the algorithm, because Al Gore needs more rhythm. 250 chowderheads need to find cheap dates. Exactly. Alyosha or fluid. Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead. Let's see if there's someone else on Twitter goes, you're the one making it sound weird by projecting here. Anyone with 2 brain cells they can put together can understand the point he's making about generational differences, women's quality and expectations today versus how it was. Don't strawman this clear point like an idiot. Okay, dude, whatever. So the last thing I do want to review here, the last thing I have planned, I mean, I had some other things that I planned to talk about today, but I think some of them are going to wait to like the bait and switch or whatever, or the switching around with the Canadian tariffs or whatever, the stuff about, you know, going into more detail, Greg Abbott refusing to extradite an ICE agent, the renaming of a U.S. Ship after Trump, and that was going to be named after a U.S. war hero from World War II. A lot of that stuff I was thinking about talking about today, but so much other stuff popped up that I decided to not talk about that stuff today. So we're going to, the last video, I guess, respond to, and we'll see how long this takes, and then we'll determine whether or not we open up phone lines today or save it till Wednesday or Thursday. But this is another example, of Nick Driver. He has video that he made with another creator, I suppose, about Sharia law, how a pastor was confronting the Dearborn, Michigan City Council over supposed Sharia law. So let's listen to what this preacher has, or pastor has to say to the city council, and to how these folks also react to it. And of course, I'll warn you, Nick tends to like to use, you know, I have some of my little things that I do, like I'll put in, you know, during it, like, you know, I make a dirty joke and I'll say, oh my, or someone else says something, or I make another joke and I'll do the, but he has this one laugh thing that just drives me crazy, this ugh, but you know, because it I don't know, but anyway, so just there's some sounds in there that I think are put in post-production that, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what Nick and his friend have to say about this. Yeah, JD Christie says, I prefer Shakira law. I will absolutely take Shakira law wherever, whenever. Anyway.
Dearborn, Michigan pastor says city is currently under Sharia law. Let's get into it.
Again, and I'm really looking for evidence here that this city is actually under Sharia law. What city in America is actually under Sharia law? Because I don't believe that any American city is currently under Sharia law.
Lorenzo Soul, I have the honor and the privilege of being the senior pastor of 180 Church, where President Donald Trump came for his birthday weekend. It was there that I had an opportunity to pray over the president, and it was at that.
Well, good for you. I don't know what that proves to anybody, but Mazel Tov.
That moment that he told.
Dean Baker goes, "What about my Sharona law? Little pretty one, don't you want it? My Bologna." Oh wait, that's Weird Al's version.
Told me I would pray at the inauguration and I would be able to preach at the rededication. The reason why I'm here today,
again, that's just appeal to popularity, authority, or whatever. I don't know what the hell logical fallacy that would fall under, but still unnecessary.
Because Dearborn, in all of your prosperity and everything that you've done, the spirit of Hubbard is still in this city. The spirit of racism still dwells in this city.
I mean, the spirit of racism dwells in many American cities. It's a reasonable point to make. Not sure what that has to do with Sharia law.
This is a city that has prospered with your mosque and your call to prayer, but yet it's on the back of my people. It's on.
The entire country was built on the backs of black people. The enslaved folks over the course of, I don't have to tell you this, but I mean, I don't know again what this has to do with Sharia law and whether or not, you know, a church or a mosque puts out a call to prayer. Well, I mean, if church rings bells, that's also seen as negative? Obviously not, because, you know, you hear church bells a lot, but oh, no one raises a shit fit about that, do they?
The back of black people that we have funded everything you do. You look down on us, your police enacting.
I mean, look, many governments do look down on black people, and that's unfortunate. And, you know, police also will look down on black people, and that's unfortunate. There's systemic racism in policing. That's not a surprise here on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right.
Justice on us. And when Jake Lang talked about Jesus, he was assaulted.
He's defending domestic terrorist Jake Lang. That's all anybody should need to know. I mean, Jake Lang is, I mean, I literally told him, I tweeted at him in response. I was like, you better be careful, because one of these days you're going to enter the find out phase after fucking around enough, and you're going to end up in prison. Like, he threatened to go to New York on 9/11, and I was like, don't worry, I'm sure Mamdani's police force is going to have no problem dealing with whatever shit you start to rile up. But Jake Lang is going to end up in prison like many of the other pardoned J6ers, I'm sure.
Because you are not up under American law. You are up under Sharia law.
Okay. What is American law? I mean, there's the Constitution, there are American laws, but usually at the city level, and when you're speaking to a city council, you're talking about city ordinances. The city ordinances that exist are part of the city law, and there's state laws that exist. There are state laws, and there are American laws, but there is one American law that's very important. That's the Constitution, specifically the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, which basically prevents any federal, state, or local government from enacting religious laws, or it should. So there's no evidence that Dearborn, Michigan, or anywhere else is under Sharia law. There's more evidence that there are American cities or whatever that are under Christian law, but we'll get into that in a second.
That is the reason why you have made no arrest. You laugh. You are 3 generations of racism in this very city. You know it. You have seen.
So I wish I knew who he was talking about and what context in which he's trying to say. But, you know, again, where's the evidence of Sharia law? Give me an example of how Dearborn, Michigan is under Sharia law.
What has happened in this city, and it is my people that have funded you. It's my people that made sure that you have what you had, and you spit on us, you degrade us, but you're only 1% of this nation.
That is a terrible argument, because a white person could say to the black people, you're only X%. If you could say to anybody that you're only X%, that doesn't make them any lesser. But in the nation versus the city is going to reflect the population of the city. The city government should typically represent the people who are the electorate of the city, right? Unless you completely manage to gerrymander in such a way that it doesn't.
Not a nation of Muslims. We are a nation of Christians.
No, the United States government was in no way founded on a Christian religion. That is what the founding fathers said when they endorsed, negotiated, ratified, and passed the Treaty of Tripoli.
We are one nation under God, indivisible.
Indivisible, but you're sure doing your damn well to define it. And whenever people like to fight back against this one, I would say, well, look, I've had arguments with conservatives before, and I've said, look, the Christian God and the Jewish God, they're not the same God, because Jews have 613 commandments. Y'all only look at 10. Jews can't drive on Saturday. Christians can. There are so many different things that Jews and Christians differ from that it's hard for me to say that it's the same deity. And then they'll be like, well, of course it's the same deity. Well, they find that Muslims have the same God as you as well. They sure do not. Oh, it pisses a Christian off if you tell them that it's not the same God between Jews and Christians. But then they tell you all of these religions are literally called the Abrahamic religions for a reason. It's because they all believe in the same general concept of God. They just differ on how they worship the same God. But don't let the small-minded folks, don't tell them that, because they'll be mad.
God of the Bible, the God of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Again, it's the same God that the Muslims worship, dude. It's the same God that the Muslims worship. And if you're a pastor, if you're a preacher, if you understand religion, you should understand that. But you don't.
That's the God in whom we serve. I want you to prove to me we're not up under Sharia law.
Prove that we're not up under Sharia law. Asking somebody to prove a negative is a logical fallacy. It is his responsibility. He is making the assertion that Dearborn, Michigan is under Sharia law. It is his responsibility as the person presenting the argument to explain why his argument is correct. It is not their job to disprove his argument.
Will you denounce, Councilman O'Reilly, will you denounce Sharia law? Will you denounce Sharia law?
Again, denouncing Sharia, I mean, if you follow Sharia law under your own personal rules, just like Christian law, there are Christian rules out there. There's Jewish laws out there. Imagine asking somebody to denounce Jewish law. They won't, especially if they're a practicing person who happens to be a practicing Jewish person. If they keep kosher, they're not going to denounce the rules of keeping kosher. They just, are not going to try and force you to not eat bacon. Now, if you come into their establishment and you want bacon and they don't have it, then go find another establishment if you want bacon.
Will you denounce? I know you won't. Will you denounce Sharia law?
See, there's that laugh.
Abraham, you went to Hillsdale. Will you renounce Sharia law? Will you renounce Sharia law? America, we have lost this city. This is a city that is no longer up under American laws.
How so? Again, prove it. You're yelling, but you're not proving it.
We are up under Sharia.
And yeah, Doc Eben Eric's One Nation Under God was added. It was one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all in the original pledge. And that was the Pledge of Allegiance that was written by a socialist minister. Then they added under God because they were fighting the Red Scare. Communism. As Eben Eric says, socialists. The Russians. The Soviets. Anyway, let's continue.
Real law, and we will not have it anymore. Enough is enough.
If you're running,
enough is enough. Let's go ahead and skip that. America, fuck yeah! That's what, I'm imagining all of the rednecks who would normally hate him for being black are sitting there saying, all the racists in there who would normally hate a black guy would be like, well, we'll applaud him this time because we don't like them Muslims either.
All right. What's up, everybody? You watch your On Air with Nick Driver, Nick Driver podcast. I have got my man DJ Diggity with me today.
It's Nick Driver and DJ Diggity. It's not No Diggity, it's DJ Diggity.
Hey, man, you are looking as sharp as ever before we get into this.
I look like I just woke up, but we'll leave that alone.
Okay, so this is a pretty deep thing here. However, this is a common thread that is going.
Dean Baker goes, will he denounce the Christian nationalism of the past that deprived so many black people of their rights? Probably not. But, don't confuse him with facts.
Going on within America. I want to mention to you, man.
Wait, Ball Thanos. Dan, what if we die and we get to heaven and then find out God is a woman? I'm sure a lot of people are going to be fucking shocked.
I'm going to ask you a question. I believe. Okay, first off, before we even get into this,
but first off, before we even get into Nick's stuff, notice that the guy here never explained one particular ordinance. Never said this ordinance says this, and therefore it's part of Sharia law, and as such, it shouldn't be the law of an ordinance that is passed for the city of Dearborn. Not once did he say that. Did he ever provide any evidence other than screaming about it loudly? And it doesn't matter how loud you talk, that doesn't prove your argument any more or less correct or incorrect.
It doesn't really matter what I am but
I am what I am, and that's all what I am.
I am what I would call a pretty lax Christian. I'm not someone that goes to church every Sunday. I do believe in Jesus, and I do believe in Western culture.
Western culture, that's just code for white Christian culture, but let's go on.
I do believe in the things that make this country a great place.
I mean, I'm not saying that Nick is saying that. I'm saying, but usually when that's said, that's what most people hear.
can two major religions exist in the same country?
Yes, 3 do. You have Judaism, you have Islam, you have Christianity, and you have many different sects of Christianity, because, you have people who don't think that Mormons are real Christians. You have evangelical Christians who don't think that Catholics are real Christians. They refuse to call Catholicism Christianity because they worship the Pope or whatever, even though it literally is a Christian sect. So lots of different types. So don't just try and make this into all Christianity. There's so much squabbling amongst Christians. You don't even need to go outside to the Muslims or the Jews. So
you go.
Not when those two major religions clash on such a fundamental basis. When you're looking at Sharia law, you are
who's looking at Sharia law? Where is Sharia law? What ordinances have been passed in Dearborn or anywhere else that is Sharia law? Again, this whole anti-Sharia law bullshit is, just another fear tactic to make people scared of the Muslims.
Looking at a religion taking over an entire section of population and instituting their own laws.
I mean, typically when people run a city, they institute ordinances that, the people elected them to institute. But again, show me where it is actually implementing Sharia law. Because again, it would be unconstitutional for them to do so. Just as it would be unconstitutional to create Christian law and to run a Christian nation, a Christian country. Because you shouldn't be basing any laws off of religion.
And that is one thing that I very severely disagree with. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And if you do...
Oh, like you can't have an abortion? Right? If Christianity is definitely not one I would try to look at to say, oh, we're a very tolerant society of not letting people do X, Y, or Z. No. The Christian right are very intolerant and don't want to allow people to have gay marriage. They don't want to allow abortions, even in cases where the woman's life's at risk or will be at risk if it's allowed to continue. Look at the steamroller argument that I made in the other video.
Do any of those three things, then because you are under Sharia law in that neighborhood, you are eligible to prosecution under their law, not...
Again, prove it. Show me an example of this happening. Show an example of somebody not heeding a call to prayer or eating pork or some other non-halal meat and being arrested and rounded up in Dearborn, Michigan, or anywhere else that might have a Muslim majority or strong Muslim presence. Show me that, because I've not seen it. Show it to me. And if you can show me an example of a city of Dearborn, Michigan, actually implementing ordinances that are based on Sharia law and violate the Constitution, then I will say that's unconstitutional. And I would do the same thing if a Jewish town wanted to pass an ordinance that said no bacon can be sold in the city limits, or if they wanted to have a Christian council trying to enact some sort of Christian law preventing things from happening under their Christian faith. Simple as that. Ali Osher, do you mean Sharia law? Some MAGA right-wing figures warned that Sharia could replace American law and control certain communities. That came as misleading. The U.S. Constitution, federal state laws remain supreme. Government cannot establish Islamic law or Christian or Jewish or any other religious law as the nation's legal system. Muslims may voluntarily follow religious practices or use private mediation, such as members of other religions do. However, civil courts apply. Exactly.
Our law, not the United States government law. They do.
And again, what's our law? The United States government, you have different laws from state to state to state. Different laws about, age of consent. Different laws about what happens if you violate somebody's age under the age of consent. Like Florida, the guy that pushed for the death penalty for child abuse or child molestation or whatever, and now he's being arrested and put on trial for violating the law that he pushed for. Right? So
what they want. I've seen this happen throughout the past decade at least.
Where?
With multiple communities across the world.
Across the world. But where in the United States is it happening? Where in the United States, with the constitutional protections, that with an establishment clause, where is it happening here?
And once they establish themselves and they declare Sharia law on a neighborhood, it turns violent very quickly.
I love that take there.
Loves that take. But what take is it? Where is it happening here in this country, and where? Because it's not, because it can't, because the Constitution prohibits it.
Let's move on to this next section here that I want to pull up here. I wanted to bring us over here so that we can actually talk about what Sharia law actually entails. And
I'm sure this is not a great example. I'm not holding my breath if this is an apt. So to everybody watching this video, do take whatever they say about Sharia law with a grain of salt. It could be cherry picked. It could be out of context or what have you. Let's continue.
And, you know, I'm a libertarian guy. I'm kind of like a live and let live type person. But
libertarian, basically, you know, I'm a conservative who wants to smoke pot.
Let's talk a little bit about Sharia law, okay?
If you noticed, my head turned. I was reading everything that you just put up. And, I mean, there are some dangerous things in there. But go ahead.
So...
Let's see, and look at this. So this is clearly Chat GPT. And this is clearly, you know... So the plain answer is strict traditional Sharia does not match the modern Western definition of equal rights. Personal religious practices can exist alongside equality, but government-enforced Sharia can conflict with it. But same thing could be said about Jewish law and Christian law. So
to anyone watching this,
Doc goes, I will see. I'm a Muslim woman. There you go, Doc. You could let us know if any of this crap is correct or where it's wrong. Dean, not that Dan. Not that Dan talks like a Southern man. I don't. I can. I reckon I could if you wanted me to, but I don't. But I don't normally. This is not my normal way of speaking, if you will.
The awkwardest. What did my grandma used to call it? Bedmates. My grandma lived through 2 world wars, so she used to call it bedmates. To me, the awkwardest 2 bedmates is the Liberal Party and Islam, because if you're going to preach women's rights, how do you side with something such as people coming into the country that have a law like Sharia law? Like, for example,
well, you know, we want people to be able to practice their own religion freely, and we on the left want to support the right. If you believe that abortion is not okay, then guess what? You don't have to have an abortion. If you don't believe in having, you know, homosexual relationships, then don't have them. But don't try and ban them from other people. And I would say this to Jewish people, Christian people, or Muslim people. But the people who are more in power in this country, the Christian folks, are trying to do just that. So don't try and tell me that our country is a bastion of freedom, of Western values and equal rights, when y'all are trying to discriminate and voting for people who are trying to rescind and take away those rights.
The traditional interpretation of Sharia law, and what we do here, this podcast is probably not as fun as Candace Owens or you know, Andrew Tate.
Yeah, so fun. Candace Owens and Andrew Tate. You have weird definitions of what fun is, my dude.
Or something like that. But what we do like to do on this podcast, even though we have fun.
See, where are these people from? I know Nick's from North Carolina. I don't know where DJ Diggity is from.
And we wild out. We like to try to bring you guys facts. In Sharia law, a daughter may inherit half as much as a son.
There you go, Doc Abe. There's your first homework assignment. Or first question. Is it correct to say that under Sharia law, a daughter may inherit half as much as a son?
Now, DJ, what that means,
what that means. I mean, I think it's pretty clear what it means. It means a daughter may inherit half as much as a son.
You had a family and your parents died, you would receive 100% of property. But if they died, she would only receive half as much of.
I think it more mean. I mean, I don't know if that's a correct interpretation, but when I would read that, I would say if you had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they were going to inherit money, that under quote supposed Sharia law that at least this Wikipedia search is looking. And Doc Abenerik says it used to be that way. So it used to be, but I would say more likely 2/3 versus 1/3, but whatever. But used to be, but I'm assuming you say by used to mean is that way.
The inheritance. So if you got $100, she would only get 50. Now this gets deeper. Men may have multiple wives while women cannot have multiple husbands. Now this is the only part of Sharia law that I agree with. Woo!
So I guess that's the other question, Doc Abenerik, is it true that under Sharia law men can have multiple wives? And are there people in Dearborn, Michigan? Are there people in Dearborn, Michigan getting married multiple times? Is that allowed in Dearborn, Michigan? Probably not. So again, where is this? Now look, I'll freely say this. Are there people who might very well want to implement Sharia law in the country or whatever and force Sharia law on everybody? I would stand up and disagree with them, just as I would stand up and disagree with anybody who'd want to implement Jewish law as the law of the country, just as I would disagree with anybody who wanted to put into place Christian law into the country. I would oppose all of it, because we're supposed to have a secular nation with secular values that includes the ability of anybody to practice their religion as they see fit, as long as it doesn't harm anybody else in the process. Right? So me and Nick had this conversation about fascism, and we were debating whether or not Donald Trump was a fascist. I say yes, he says no. I say yes because there's all of these things that he wants to do, versus, but if he hasn't gotten there yet, then according to Nick's argument that you can't call him a fascist because he hasn't done it yet. Like, we still have elections, so he can't be a fascist. He can't be an authoritarian. I'm like, but if he wants to, make the elections, make it harder for people to vote and then eliminate elections altogether or whatever, because he wants to, declare some sort of emergency, we shouldn't have to wait for that to happen to be able to say, oh, he's a fascist. We can look at his desires and call him a fascist. So you can look at people's desires and say that those people want to implement Sharia law, but that's different than saying that they have actually implemented Sharia law. So, and Doc Abenerik says it's false that men may not have multiple wives. So there you go. Fact-checking live with Doc Abenerik.
Boy, yo, hey, a broke clock is right
Good
twice
morning,
a day.
everybody. Welcome to Saturday.
A woman's testimony may carry less weight in certain legal or financial cases.
Is that correct, Doc Abenerik? Is that correct? Women's testimony may carry less weight in certain legal or financial cases. I'd definitely like to hear that. Your opinions on that.
Now, I want to go a little bit deeper on that particular one, and I'm gonna tell you a specific. If there is a issue and you're in a Muslim country, that's
again, we're not in a Muslim country, so that's good.
Under Sharia law, and a woman,
we're not in a Christian country or a Jewish country either,
and witnesses a murder, her testimony means half of what a man's means. Now, how do you even take that?
Now, that's not what this says. This says a woman's testimony may carry less weight in certain legal or financial cases. It doesn't say which ones. So,
because that sounds like oppression to me. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I don't want to hear conservatives who supported Donald Trump, and Nick says he voted for Donald Trump 3 times. I don't want to hear conservatives say anything about equality and failing to protect equality when conservatism, Christian conservatism, doesn't want the genders to be considered to be equal. It's bizarre. See, the Quran says you could have 4 wives provided that the first wife gives the man permission to have another one, and if the man can provide equal treatment, this is impossible, so stick to only one. So there you go. That's the marriage thing.
Okay.
I mean,
that sounds like oppression.
Nicely. I've got
yeah. Don't talk about oppressing women, how other countries oppress women, when the United States does a good job of its own oppressing women here.
a few other terms for it, but we're not going to mention those here.
Well, we might have to get our...
Alyosha goes, what do the Southern guys know about Muslims and or the Quran? Probably not. No, probably not much. being essential. Also says the guy in Florida wanted that law because he knew that there needed to be stricter laws to possibly keep himself in line. So much for that. And that's what I've said. That's a lot of the times when these conservatives are trying to pass these laws in government, it's not because they completely go against their whole less government thing, because they are basically admitting that they need government to stop them from doing things because they can't control themselves. And then they find out, well, the law didn't stop them from doing the things anyway. So that is a tale as old as time.
Rumble station going. Women may face stricter clothing, travel, and behavioral rules. Women have to cover themselves up.
Doc is, let's see. Doc is no, women has equality. Quran is a full chapter about the Virgin Mary, her importance, and her freedom. So I think we have seen some laws, some countries. We can look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the World Wrestling Entertainment has had events in Saudi Arabia. And at first, there was only like one women's match or whatever. But still, the women who are dressed up are not allowed to show off their skin, basically. Like, they can show their hands and they can show their faces, but they have to wear full, like, long sleeves, long pants. There has to be, nothing can show. Like, everything has to be up to here, while the men can still wrestle in their tights. And it was surreal one time watching a match on for WWE when Goldberg comes out, the Jewish wrestler, and you have an entire arena of Saudis cheering Goldberg's name or chanting Goldberg's name. Like here, and then you had a bunch of other people cheering when Hulk Hogan comes out to I'm a Real American. So I don't know, maybe there's change. Maybe the WWE is bringing change to Saudi Arabia, but maybe not quickly enough. I don't know. Doc says that's Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states. But, I'm sure there are other areas in the Muslim world where the clothing is, not as strict, so to speak, or whatever. But again, is it the law in Dearborn, Michigan, that you have to have stricter clothing rules, travel and behavior rules? Does Dearborn, Michigan punish people for not dressing modestly enough if they're women? I don't think so. Prove to me that is a thing that happens, and I will criticize it. So, let's continue.
The only person they show themselves to and their face to is their husbands. This flies in the face. Sharia law, even though I'm not a super religious person, Sharia law flies in the face of Western civilization. You go.
Western civilization. Again, Western civilization is just the code word that we hear from a lot of these right-wing podcasts that basically mean white Christian civilization. And we don't want a pure white, pure Christian civilization. We want a nice melting pot or a jambalaya or a gumbo of stuff going on here. We don't want to have any one religion creating the rules. We want everybody to follow their own religion as they see fit, if they desire to do so, as long as it doesn't have a negative effect, an unwanted effect on anybody else. Simple as that. So if you are somebody who is a Muslim woman and want to dress up in, a certain outfits because you feel your religion tells you to do so, then you should feel free to do so. That should be your choice and your right, and you should not be forced to wear anything that you don't want to wear. But also, if you're raised Muslim and you don't want to wear an outfit that's as modest as some might believe that women should have in certain areas of the Muslim faith, then guess what? You should be able to wear whatever it is the fuck you want to wear. Same thing with Christianity. Same thing with Judaism. Same thing with any other rules. Follow your religious rules as you see fit, and don't push them on other people using the arm of government. Hey, Trucker John, good to see you. Let's see, we only got about 45 or more seconds left of this video, so
I absolutely agree with that. And to kind of springboard from that, you're looking at women as less of a person.
As does many modern conservative Christian folks. So unless you're going to sit here and be criticizing the right-wing Republican Christian folks who are viewing women as lesser people, like, Pete Hegseth denying promotions to qualified women in the armed services, like that sort of thing, or claiming that women are not as capable to do certain things, even if they can pass the required test to do so. Many examples of modern Christian white men discriminating against women and not treating women equally. So unless you're going to be sitting here and be criticizing the Christians who do it, or any Jews who do it, or any other religion or any other group that does it, don't only criticize Muslims if they do it too.
Looking at them as more property.
Let's see. Doc Ambidextrous also goes, about women inheritance. The inheritance thing is BS. If my husband were to die before me, I will get 100% control of everything. There you go.
Than human beings.
That's facts.
You're establishing rules for their behavior instead of allowing them to conduct themselves in a way that allows them to be their own person.
As do the Christians. Again, the tone deafness here is ridiculous.
So at that point, they're not people, they're property.
And that's exactly what Christian folks, the extremist conservative Christian folks, especially those that are running the government, believe too. And y'all are silent as the grave about that.
That's facts, man.
That's facts, man. Yeah, okay, no. That's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so there's Nick, your boy Nick Driver, and his show over on it's on YouTube as well. She posted this 2 days ago. Nick Driver. You can check it out if you want to. There's a couple of videos that I'm on there over there with as well. Look, give him a subscription or whatever. Go subscribe to him too. Comment in his videos. Talk about, hey, I saw your video over here. This is what I disagree with or whatever. But most importantly, when I upload this video, comment it there as well. Because I'm sure I'll tag Nick and he'll come in and he'll probably do a response and we'll do a response back and yada, yada, yada. But again, if you're not going to be critical of the Christians that are treating women like property, then don't be critical of Muslims if you feel that they're treating women like property, because you got to criticize it all or you don't have a leg to stand on, so to speak. Balthaz, I hope he's not related to Adam Driver. I doubt it, but you never know. I mean, everybody here asks, are you related to this? Is this Zimmerman, that Zimmerman? I know for one thing that I'm not related to the George Zimmerman, and that's a good thing. Although that the amount of times I've had to hear that crap, aggravating. Anywho. I think I'm getting a little tired, so I'm probably not going to go ahead and do any sort of call-in segment this time. I do apologize. Roger and Out says, did you not cover the SCOTUS mail-in ballot ruling? I didn't have enough information on that yet. I wanted to do a little more research to make sure I reported on it accurately. Because from what I understand with the ruling is that it's not necessarily saying that what they plan on doing is legit, but they basically told the states that they sued too early because all they're doing is discussing the rule and not implementing the rule. That's my understanding of it as of now. Things may change in my understanding of it, so that's why I wanted to wait, because it happened so quickly before the show and I was still planning to talk about all this other stuff. So we will definitely talk about that on Wednesday night. Now, I don't know if I'll be doing nerdydan.com again tomorrow night. I probably won't be doing... I did use the image, Gaming with Liberal Dan, to advertise the fact that I went live on nerdydan.com on Saturday. I don't feel that I'm going to do any sort of... Most likely, if I do, even though a lot of y'all did say, hey, game on Liberal Dan instead of Nerdy Dan, the problem with that is we did get rated from Hal, and then the viewership just went into the tank. So I don't think the people that were coming over from the Hal Sparks raid really appreciated the gaming going on, even though it was just something I wanted to do for funsies. It's just an experiment. So we will... Trucker John, no thanks to subbing to the right-wing nut job channel. Doc Amidx, for the record, I know about Islam not only about my experience, but also my husband's aunt was the director of women's rights education and political issues under King Hassan II. Wow, that's pretty impressive. That sounds like an interesting show in and of itself. Easy E. Your last name is Zimmerman? Yes, my last name is Zimmerman. Yes, it is. So... Anywho, let's see. Dan, you played the wrong game. You have to play GTA 5. No, I'm waiting for GTA 6 to come out, and then I'll probably play GTA 6 when it comes out and play that one a bunch too. But, and parliamentarian during King Muhammad VI. Damn. You got connections. Let's see. Anyway, so I think we'll be done with today's episode of Liberal Den Radio. Talk from left, that's right. We'll be back here again Wednesday night. Wednesday may start a little late because I got a late announcement on like either yesterday or sometime today that there's something going on at my kid's school. So I'm gonna go do that probably. I should be back by 8. If I start Wednesday's show a little bit late, it's just a little bit late, and then we'll do an hour. Wherever I start, we'll do an hour, and then we'll do After Dark this Wednesday as well. So. Are you following the GTA 6 hacking issue? No, I'm not. So I'll have to look into that, I guess. So anyway, y'all have a great one. If you haven't liked the stream yet, please like it on the way out. Go make sure, again, comment, share, and like other videos that are out there because it helps the algorithm. And again, Al Gore needs more rhythm. Interact with the conservatives if you feel like you have the spoons to do so because... apparently arguments on threads are probably going to cause more discussion that takes place, which hits the algorithm more, which means more people will be shown my videos. So if you feel like you're up to it, if you don't feel like you're up to it, I'm not going to hold it against you. Sometimes I don't even feel like debating conservatives sometimes. But if you can, help the algorithm. Al Gore needs more rhythm. Have a great one. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
treason if chosen name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, I would flip. Had Biden done it, phone numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no door can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. Stop the testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. An administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Else includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find the proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaotic secret and NDA sign. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. It must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist.